Righto, ladies and gentlemen, it is a lovely Friday afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Suck it if you're in New South Wales. You're on daylight savings time.
WA.
WA. It will be afternoon there. So welcome to the Dirtbags podcast. I'm your host, Josh Curran, and this is one that I'm very much so looking forward to. So as always, I'm here with Dan the Man, but this one here we've got the most talked about man on the podcast. I said,
Billy Geddes. Billy, go get us.
Billy Geddes.
I like it. So.
Yeah.
Can we talk about his wheelchair in the background?
Yeah.
Straight in.
Straight in.
That's
like
what we're
dagger.
doing.
We're setting the tone right now.
No, but you're absolutely
Paybacks
right.
coming.
Yeah, Josh, this is one we've been trying to line up for quite a while. None other than R. Mason's on the channel. And I tell you
The
what,
wheelman.
excited, very excited, because it's even better because, as you mentioned, we also have Billy Geddes. So what a combo, because I tell you what, in the, I'm going to say the greater scene, even though both of these guys are quite humble, very influential four-wheel drivers, very much into the performance four-wheel drive scene. It's just, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
We're going to cover a lot here today because it's just going to be a chat. Relax. Crack open a can. It's going to be a good one.
It is going to be a good one. So we'll cover off the official business. If you like what we're doing, like and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
Goodness.
You're
such an
Dirtbags
influencer.
At Dirtbags Podcast. Yeah, Cowboy Tuned is going to make a meme about me soon one day. Hopefully anyhow. So, but yeah, this is one that we've really been looking forward to. I think we said it in the post this afternoon. We said, I think there's probably been no more man that's been more influential in go fast four-wheel drives than Russell Mason.
You gotta say hi now, Russell.
Yeah, I've always had the need for speed. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so let's kick it off from the start, because Mason, a lot of people know you around the scene from a number of things, and we're going to get into some good stories. I know you're quite a humble man, so it's probably going to be hard for you, but let's kick it off from the start. How did you get into four-wheel driving? Because I know you're a performance car guy and motorbikes and all sorts of stuff. Lots of the four-wheel drive scene, we've talked about this on Dirtbags a number of times. Lots of guys come from the dirt bike scene, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I actually did myself. I think my last bike was a KX 500 two-stroke. Used to do enduro racing and so on. Then I got my EH, and then I decided to turbo that. I went to Summernats 12, for instance, and I think
so. Again, you're brushing over it. Sorry, mate. This is a podcast.
Oh, yeah,
I'll slow you up a little bit. So when you talk about turbocharging an EH back in the day, it's not a buy a Motec, buy a dash, buy a injectors, buy a plate. You're talking about handmade manifolds.
It was actually a Garrett kit that I modified.
There you go. And a carburetor.
It was a 3-inch SU. Yeah.
Yep. See, a lot of the young fellas, you're saying it like as if people know what we're talking about. An SU is a side draft carburetor.
Yeah. And it was turbo mounted, like on the actual intake compressor housing of the turbo. And it was a really great car. Like I still got it actually. I got to drag it out of the shed. But back in the day, I took it to Summernats 12. That's how long ago it was last running. And I think I was about 50 horsepower short of winning the 6-cylinder class. And that was like only at 300 horsepower or something, So things have just gone so far nowadays. But yeah, it was
but that 300 at the wheels in a 6-cylinder Holden with a turbo, that was impressive back in the day. Like, it's no joke. Like, and that's probably what I'm trying to get at is nowadays when we talk, everyone rattles off 4-digit. Sorry, I should take that step back. Not everyone rattles off 4-digit numbers at the rear wheels, but it is actually a semi-common occurrence now. Whereas back in the day, like, again, if you ran a 12-second quarter mile or you had 300 at the rear wheels, that was a very, very fast car, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, especially one that was running on the streets.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
A true street car. Probably, were you driving it to work?
That was my daily
car. Yep.
Yeah, we used to go on bike camps, load up and chuck the EH down into New South Wales.
Tow a trailer?
Tow a trailer, yeah. Just, and it was very crude, like to today's standards. Like I had an old McGee fuel injection system that was pod adjustable. So again, sorry, this is what I do. Sorry. When you say pod adjustable, you're talking about like a little, and it's literally got dials on it. Correct.
And you're tuning different sections of RPM.
So no, not even that advanced. Yeah. So it was an ECU that had screwdriver adjustable like load, real basic and very crude. No ignition control whatsoever. So I devised a way that I could retard the timing on load with an actuator, and I actually spun the dizzy in the diff in the block. Sorry. It seemed to work really well, and I think the whole thing only weighed like 1,180 kilos. So power to weight was quite good back in the day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what size motor are we talking about in the EH then?
The big block 3.3 liter blue block.
So is that a motor retrofitted out of a Commodore? Is that where it came from? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times they're talking about red blocks, black blocks, those sort of things.
Yeah. So my EH had a 186 originally, and I acquired a 12 port head Commodore blue motor block, and Collie Sleepy actually did minor head work on it at a time. And it was just all off the shelf Repco, like ACL stuff and whatever else. And it lasted for years. It was really good. And I could probably still start it today if I hooked up a battery. I don't know. Yeah.
Sounds like a challenge. I like that idea. But then you moved into the four-wheel drive scene because, am I on the right track? You started working at ARB?
Correct, yeah. So I was very fortunate to get an opportunity to work at ARB for Mark Lacey back in the day. He was he started ARB in Rocky. And I was in the workshop and, just got really inspired. He was very, very good to me. He got me into the four-wheel drive racing down at Cruiser Park. And
RIP.
Land Cruiser Mount Park, he's talking
Oh,
about. Not Mark Lacey.
Just so we're sure.
No false news here.
Yeah, then fortunately.
Let's go through that section because out of interest, like I know you acquired your GQ in this period of time, but we've talked about it a few times, haven't we, Josh, where back in these days, you actually went to the original Outback Challenge.
Correct.
And, like if you turned up, you guys turned up on 35-inch mud tires.
No.
33s.
33s.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And that was a competition car.
They were bloody huge, mate. I couldn't wait to be able to afford a set of 33s.
You're bloody silly running those tires, young fella. 33s.
There's one other competitor at the whole Outback Challenge scene that had 35s, man. This guy was cool. He had to specially order these things into Australia and shit like that. So, it was a long time ago.
Because I think a lot of young fellas don't realize, because like in this day and age, it's the world of double locks and 37s. Everyone's got them. If you don't have triple bypass shocks, what are you doing? Easy, because up until let's say 10 years ago, given it a little bit, like triple bypasses on patrols wasn't a real thing, was it? People couldn't understand what the hell they were for, they're very customized the way they're installed and stuff like that. So every vehicle back in those days was bolt-on stuff.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I want to get into the deeps of what you call bolt-on, but let's start with the GQ, because you ended up with a factory rear-locked 89,
actually late 88, which is still plated to that. And
so I love that, because that's another conversation I want to have.
So it was actually the Outback Challenge. When we finished that on the way home, I had my whole car planned. It was either going to be a Core Cab GQ Ute or a Shorty. And so I acquired a diesel turbo kit that gave me the manifold for a TB42. I did some crude.
But the plan was always petrol? Always petrol. Yep,
yeah. People, I think Swaffy opened up the whole TD 42 horsepower thing, and that was not even thought about back in those days. So,
100%. Like
he was the instigator of a lot of big things.
I'm going back into like the old 75s when you were running the Outback Challenge in the old Red Girl. Like a turbo diesel was really just a bad thing to pull a trailer. Even in the 1HZs in the 97s, like they were okay, but they just didn't pull. And then you had all the injection guys come in like Swaff and started sticking more power into the things, and they turned into bits of monsters then. But
not wrong. Yeah.
Well, in those early days, honestly, if you could get 100 horsepower at the rear wheel to have a TD, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy, but that's reality.
We used to sell turbo kits, for a lot of diesels, like the TD. You'd sort of say, "Oh, you get 50% more performance." So 50% of fuck all is still fuck all, really. So
pretty
much.
In the old days,
Oh man, I can see our hate mail just lighting up about hating turbo diesels. But yeah, so you acquired a TD manifold.
TD manifold.
Got a message from Heath here.
Yeah. Heath is very mad.
Yeah, that guy made me think very differently about the horsepower need. Actually, and anyway, so back in the day, so I worked out the obviously TD or diesel manifolds fit. Then I bought a petrol, like a cruiser, what are they? The 4.5 liter cruiser turbo kit. That gave me the turbo. I had the intercooler, obviously the diesel, and I sort of
because again, I suppose bringing it back, you can't just get on eBay and buy a quinoa like that. They're like all the Hiroshima flame booms don't exist in this day, do they? Like, you know, you either bought a Garrett or you bought something off Safari or MTQ. Like, there really wasn't like a million turbo options there was, but they were a lot of money, weren't they?
And very old school.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically these were Safari kits that I acquired that people sort of blew engines up and whatever, and I sort of put this thing together. And throughout a week after ours, I actually converted my carbide TB42 into a fuel injected vehicle, which is the first, you know, real fuel injection system put in. So, I mean, I look back to what I did and the enthusiasm I had. I can't match that to today. Like in a week, I'd spend.
And that's saying something.
Yeah, like I ran like a Hall effect sensor off the ring gear, and I did that through a starter motor hole while the engine's still in the fire, like still implanted.
Yeah.
And you think about it, you got 284 bloody teeth, and I had to put 3 bolt heads in there. So there was a bit of calculation there and drilling and tapping the hard casing and nailed it. Like, man, I'll pull that out later, and it was so accurate. And so we made another race for that weekend or something, fuel injected. But
so originally using a factory Nissan fuel injected inlet?
Definitely not. They weren't out.
Oh, okay. So there was no fuel injected GQ in those days?
Probably not accessible. No.
Or not available. That makes sense.
So I used the old carbine manifold, and I had like a mandrel, half a mandrel band with a Falcon throttle body that gave me a TPS, and you know, of course, the diesel plumbing. And Mark Lacey actually sponsored me half the computer, an Autronic SMC back in the day. It was pretty cool bit of gear. And I had to work out how to use all this. And a really, really good person, Ashley Bolt, nailed. Is a name that you need to get on here. This guy's got a lot of stories too.
Very much.
Yeah. So he helped me work this thing out. And he's just amazing. Yeah, this guy. Anyway, injected this thing. I think I sweated out. That's where I got that's where I drilled the manifold, the carbine manifold, welded in these inserts for the injectors. It was very crude, but geez, it worked. Like, I mean, I was only making, I think it turned out I was only making 235 horsepower, but back in those days.
That's what I was going to say. And again, I always prefix this. 230 at the rear wheels in the day was a very fast car. That patrol was fast.
We are saying in the day. What year are you talking about here, Russ? Like early 90s?
Look, I was only 40 back then, so it would have been.
I actually reckon, Josh, that
25 years ago.
That was cold as ice, early 90s.
No. I just put it out there.
I'd be saying 95, 96,
sure.
Maybe. Something like that. Well,
it was in that period though, 2000, and the Outback Challenge was big, wasn't it?
Yeah. And by the time I finished school, like your patrol was well known.
See what he just did there? threw everyone under the bus there.
I'm just saying
I'm just hiding over here.
All I'm saying is it's just nice being the youngest for once. Like,
no, but you're absolutely right, because again, we used to remember when they used to do those dyno comps down in Rocky, and like if you rolled off 114 or 120, that was a fast car.
Yeah,
a Nissan Silvia with a turbo kit was like, if you could run over 200, it was quite a performance orientated car.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe I turned my patrol while you were still in nappies.
Probably.
That's pretty cool.
That's not true, but okay.
And the
patrols didn't exist.
The next weekend we went to Sione Park.
I was going to say, he was in nappies, yeah, definitely, at 20.
That's what I was going to say, is if you turboed it 5 years ago, it's probably accurate.
So it's interesting, Mason, because you're essentially saying that you built it with competition in mind. Like, you wanted that performance, you built your own auto?
Not back then. I was, look, the RE4 Nissan Auto was just unknown back in those days. So a lot of guys had a go at it and stuff like that, and I ended up taking it on myself because I just was throwing money at it, and things have progressed a lot since then. So
so for us non-patrol, I'm a patrol guy, but so is an RE4 the same?
No.
So it's a GU box, right? Or is it a GQ box as well?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So the overdrive switch you hit in the GQ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. I understand.
So they went right through in a lot of forms, but up to the GU 4.5 liters basically, and the 3 liter patrols.
And that gets you into racing, because is your initial toe dip into 4-wheel drive performance at Land Cruiser Mountain Park? Is that?
Oh, definitely. Like, it's a tour, fun machine, but just to have that main competition once a year at Land Cruiser Park was just definitely a highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, guys, we're talking about May Day at Land Cruiser Mountain Park. That was like an institution in Queensland.
And I think probably just to put some light on it too, Russ has always had this plan that the car needs to drive there and drive home. Like if if you've known Russ for any length of time, then we've all been through the pain. But it has to drive there, and he has to drive it home. And God forbid you ever put something on to tow it, he's going to cry.
Yep.
It did put that. It did definitely concrete that thought process when you're racing it. The risk you take, you had to minimise that risk as much as possible, but still be very as competitive as you can.
So are you suggesting that might have actually been an advantage for you, that you knew that you had to drive it home, so therefore you might not have gone, you're at 95 rather than 105?
Well, I think when the stopwatch,
because I was going to say I can tell you some stories.
Yeah, it's very hard. Like, I mean, when that stopwatch is on you, you're in a different mindset.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I did a trip with you one time to Land Cruiser Mountain Park, and I actually did pack a pair of motorcycle goggles in the car because I thought there was a fair chance we were probably coming home with no windscreen. I never told you that.
Yeah,
but I did.
But that's an interesting time, because that was a period of time, really, before this man here. No one trailered their cars to Land Cruiser Mountain Park, did we? We all drove them. We, competed for the weekend and then attempted to drive them home in various states of broken parts. And,
I'd actually like a show of hands here. Who actually has not driven home with Russell without a windscreen?
Me. I'm the only one that hasn't.
Wow, it didn't happen that often. Really. Actually, you were in the car once. This one time.
Look, I've got to tell this story. This is one of the funniest stories out.
Here we go. I'm waiting for this. As soon as you got mentioned, you're going to be here tomorrow. I knew this was going to come.
This has to come out. It's probably a good time to do it. But we were down at a good mate of ours for Australia Day, wasn't it? Down at
Steve.
At Stevie's place. Yeah, we're down there. No, that was the second time. The first time we were up at Five Rocks.
Oh, yeah, at our place.
You guys.
I was going to say that started at our place.
Yeah, we went dunging at our place. That's right.
Going for a bit of a dung through the bush.
Yes.
And got the old dog going off here.
Chasing sheep.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk
anyway,
about I agree, mate. Don't talk about this. Change the subject. Yeah.
Change the subject. We just got to get. Hang on, I'll just phone a friend to get rid of a dog.
Russell's flapping sausages under the table.
Oh, wowzers! What? Wowzers!
I'll put my fly back up.
And you thought coming to HQ was a good idea for a studio.
Oh, why do you do live podcasts? You can't plan this stuff. But hey, just so
I
you
just
know,
learned
too,
2 minutes ago this was going live. And I went, what?
Yeah. Well, we've had a few people actually message in, mate. And for some reason, Alan Cornick has sent in an emoji with a hand up as well. So
he wants an answer? No, he's been in the car. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. He's saying he's been in the car.
Right. No, but so let's get back to Bill will tell his story in a second, I'm sure of this. But so the May Day thing, because I think that's something that shaped not just racing locally in CQ, in off-road as a whole, because you're around the era when you were racing Clayton Chapman, Amy Chapman, who was Amy Parrott in those days. There's a lot of guys, like, let's talk about Mr. Sheet Metal, all of these guys come out of an era in Queensland. I know it's a Queensland thing.
Normie Walters, just so many great names and so many great people. It's been an awesome party. Yeah. All drives is just, the community is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? And I think that, that Albin deserves, and we talk about this a bit when we talk on off-road racing, don't we? When we commentate about how Albin and deserves a lot of respect and
a lot of credit.
Credit. That's the word I was looking for.
100%.
I apologize because really in the four-wheel drive industry and the off-road racing thing, he did a lot for the sport. I feel.
Absolutely.
It created, and I know at the end it got a little bit wild, and that's sort of seems to be the thing that's going on at the moment. But back in those days, if you knew Land Cruiser Mountain Park in the 2000s, I don't know if I like this word, but anyway, I was going to use the word groomed a lot of very, very good competitive drivers, because it was very difficult to compete there. If this is what I guess I'm trying to get at, if you could win at Land Cruiser Mountain Park, you could go to Raleigh, to Cliffhanger, and you'd have a fair chance.
Yeah, you definitely got to test your skills out in every form. Whether it be winch challenges, like steering a vehicle at high speed or probably higher nowadays than what they were, but still pretty quick, and had the track set up. And the good thing about Land Cruiser Park was the whole party weekend. So yes, you did compete, but then you'd pack up you'd put your helmet back in your tent and load the fridge up, and off you'd go all night.
Yeah,
just on all the extreme tracks.
Yep.
turn up in the morning at quarter to race time and refuel, and next thing you're lined up again.
Yeah.
It's like, it was just big weekends.
It was very, very good. And I think it taught us all a lot of skill sets and yeah, particularly you, because I see that obviously, I mean, the other thing that probably people don't understand is how much you drive your car. Like, you know, it's gone through various different builds, because we started off talking about, so it was 4.2 in these days.
Yes.
And then obviously through, let's start talking about the progression then. So, you know, you start getting, you raced it a fair bit at Land Cruiser Mount Park.
Yep.
Did you do other, because rally was more 4.5 days?
I think it was a 4.5 litre then. Yeah.
Yep. So the progression here, guys, is if you're interested in some Mason history, then it's 4.2. You tell us block, but 4.5 crank.
No. So this is before the 4.8 days. So I managed to get hold of a 4.5 litre. They were fairly new at the time. And so it was a weekend change out. So I unbolted the 4.2 and I put the 4.5 in, and that obviously exposed a heap of issues. But it was injected. So I got I sweated out Falcon fuel injected nozzles out of a Falcon motor, and I used my shower curtain stainless rod that I had just lying around. So and that's still going to today.
That's unreal.
Just so many sort of dodgy things back in the day. Anyway, and then
see, I think where I got the conversation, now that I think about it and you've said that, did you put 4.2 rods in the 4.5 because they were beefier?
I did eventually, because first I went down to Mud Bulls to compete, and in the pig pen I did a 4-drive donut, and next thing bent all these rods, and I went, oh, that's not good. So I got my old man actually come up from Brisbane, actually towed us home behind what was it, a Trino, force on a Trino. And I was just dead weight on a strap, and all the way to Rocky.
You're talking Daihatsu Tirano?
No, Nissan.
Oh, okay, Nissan Tirano. Yes. And I know the car you're talking about, a little boxy thing.
Yeah. And so I pulled it down. I worked out that, geez, these 4.2 rods should bolt in. They're about 70 grams heavier, and so I ran that for a long time. And I ended up tipping them over a little bit, those rods, and so then I sort of worked out that a 4.8 crank, I can make that fit. So I machined up a little sleeve on the snout but
so you brushed over that quick. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you missed it, he now has a 4.5 with a 4.8 crank in it.
Yep. And with Quillo rods.
I love the way he says, yep. Normal stuff.
And good news, I sorted the dog.
Thanks, Bill. You're the man.
Is it dog for dinner?
Was.
So I got custom pistons, because I was throwing factory pistons at it, and so I got a part number through CP Pistons, which is my custom design. Because of the stroke, I had to sort of like step the piston to control the compression ratio and all that sort of stuff, and I spent a heap of hours understanding porting and so on, and still run that, probably my second cylinder head, I think, with all that work on it, even to today.
Cylinder head that you've done yourself in your shed?
Yep.
And single cam, obviously. I mean,
still the old school. Valve springs, all that sort of stuff, and
all done. Just so again, ladies and gentlemen, this man, and I'm not talking you down because we love this stuff, we all love this stuff, is the fact that it's all done it's essentially a large, am I allowed to call it a 2-bay shed or a single and a half?
She's a 6x6.
Yeah.
It's got a lathe in it and everything else. Yeah.
So this is, like building all these things, it's not in some exotic, workshop with, CNC cutters and that. Like, you're building this stuff essentially in your shed.
Yeah. No, I bought a lathe and stuff like that.
Well, actually, while I was wrangling the dog, have we touched on winches yet?
No. Well, we're getting to all of this. Yeah.
We've got the time.
Motors.
Yeah, because I've got to put my hand up again, even though I got interrupted by the dog. Russ first started mucking around with these low mount winches, in the day when everyone was running high mounts, and they had some geared up winches in there. And I heard you mention at the start with the 4-wheel drive thing, legends. I don't know if you'd call me a legend.
I'd call you a legend, Bill.
I broke a lot of stuff. And I really
listen. People flocked to watch you on stage. That's what I can tell you.
They did do that, but I don't think I won a damn thing. But anyway, I had a lot of fun.
By the spectators' hearts.
But Russ and I, when Russ was at ARB, we used to come back from Taroom, because we were living in Taroom at that stage, and we'd come back up to Rocky. And the first port of call was always ARB if the lights were on, and we'd we'd roll in there, and Russ would be, trying to bend some rings back straight or something like that. And
again, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a joke.
Yes, definitely go through that.
It is not. I've seen it with my own eyes. I know.
Or a chassis, one of the two. I mean, rings or chassis. That was usually it.
Hey, Dan, which bearing do you think looks best? Oh my goodness.
So we rocked up there, and he's telling me about this winch, and we were going to the winch challenge back with Swaffy and the boys back in the days, and we thought we'd he mentioned this stuff about dropping a planetary out of a low mount winch, and it'd have to be fast, and we're like, well, obviously 10 beers deep, and we're like, yeah, I agree, it'd have to be fast. So anyway, we're going to the race. He said, if I build one, would you put it in your car? And I thought, I'll put it in. And literally, we were at the race. Russ turns up with this winch, puts it in the front of the 75 series, and we hit the button on this thing, and it literally flew.
You could ski behind it.
And we're like,
so is this one motor or two at those?
There's only one motor.
Still only one motor. Yeah. So we 24 volted it, but and that's a 12-volt motor that was 24 volted. And you touch the button on that sucker, you could water ski behind it. But it had no power. Like it had power, but not enough torque. Not enough torque. So anyway, we probably the first hill we made it look amazing because I just held it on the limiter, and we basically drove like this winch wall to the top, and then the rest of the weekend was a disaster. But not to be outdone, like next thing Russ has worked out how to put two motors on it, and on and on and on, and
three motors,
and three motors, and then the free spill too. Tell them about the free spill.
Yeah, so I made a free spill that sandwiches between the factory gearbox and the drum mount. It's only about 29 mil. It uses a dog clutch arrangement, so it defaults to lock, and actually the dog's actually an airlock apart, because we know they're fairly reliable. And it's been the same design ever since, really. I still use it today.
Yeah, and it was very competitive. I remember it personally, like seeing how fast they were, because the gearing, obviously. Let's talk some gearing numbers just for the folks at home. Like, what's a normal number? Like 156 to 1's our standard high mount, and then you're talking like a 216 to 1 is a standard Magnum style worn winch. Yeah. And you're talking what?
Well, the standard high mount was about 136, and then the 130, something like that. A 9,500 or 9,000 pound winch, or the later versions, 156. And then you go your slower, like like your Tay bars and stuff like that. They're 218 or whatever. So if you get your 156 ratio, I could turn them into 28 to 1 as one option.
That's insane. So one option, like the supercharged option. And again, you're talking about, you ended up machining plates, and you're running essentially like a Gilmer style drive. Is that the right sort of idea?
Yeah.
That style of
like a belt drive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like a belt drive.
And these things, I mean, they've proven to be super, because I remember the other side. Now, I know you're not going to toot your own horn because that's not who you are, but there was a lot of talk early on that, they were going to do this and they were going to do that.
That never work.
That they, other than the fact, take this how you want. This is my opinion. You can tell me I'm an idiot.
You're an idiot.
They're probably not a great recreational winch, are they? Because they are very fast.
Yeah, they're not practical.
They're not designed for the average guy just towing. Like, when I say they're fast, I've seen cars end up on their sides very, very quick, because 26 to 1 is moving.
They're like great for playing tricks on your navvy.
They are. They definitely are.
Especially someone unsuspecting. Hang on to this.
But for a competition winch, I mean, they are
fantastic.
brilliant. Yeah. They are so, like, these cars literally look like they're driving up. And again, so what year did you develop that? Are we talking 08?
Must have been 09? I did that 07. That's the first winch challenge with a steel cable, and I just 24 volts.
A steel cable. Oh my goodness. See, people shudder at that now.
Look, I remember Russ telling me, like, don't do that plasma stuff.
Plasma. I remember this conversation too, actually.
Cable is where it's at.
Yeah. That plasma, it falls apart all the time.
It's like $100 a foot.
That's the real problem right there. Yeah, he got offcuts from ARB is what he got.
But what's more important, the cost or the weight that it saves you having a fiber?
Listen, I'm going to talk to you about that rag thing I heard. That is so wrong.
He swears it's a true story.
True story.
Swears. Although I know Josh Curran, so I don't know if I might be on your side in a second.
I might have been a carton deep pulling your leg.
Yeah, I think so. So. They were wild nights. But did you not run out of fuel in the GPS stage?
Which one?
Which one? Oh, we still won.
At Cliffhanger.
That's all about. No, at 3-car in not Low Mead, in Rocky.
Sione.
At Sione.
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't remember it. But...
that's all right. You were probably a carton deep then too.
Yeah.
So, well, this leads us to, because that's where I was going. I know we were talking competition, but we're talking May Day competition. Where and when was the decision made that, you know, I've gone to, because you've got some great stories about going to the Cape. You've got some great stories about going to Tasmania, but you're like, do you know what I need? I need to tow a trailer or wherever I'm doing and go and do some competition. Because was XWC Dave Metcalf's your first winch?
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was always into center of gravity, so low but good wheel travel, you know. And so I turned up to this winch challenge, and I was parked against these tall guys. Like the winch challenge trucks were tall,
They
primarily.
were very big.
Yeah,
if you didn't have a 7-inch lift, you weren't winch challenging back in those days.
Yeah. And I remember Dave Metcalf, and he's a legend again. He brought winch challenges to the scene, really, back in the day. And anyway, so I pulled up there with me standard gearbox, an air ram operating me free spool factory lever. It was really hard to pull the cable out. Lucky my navvy was Pete Luttrell, and he was like a footballer that could just muscle that thing out. And anyway, we entered, and actually, this brings back memory about you, Billy, you bastard.
The turntables.
So we competed all day, and we just did what we did, you know, as best we could, and whatever the outcome, you know. And apparently, we sort of started doing all right, you know. And I blew the brushes out of me.
Humble. Apparently, we did okay.
Anyway, I burnt the brushes out on me in me 4.6 horsepower motor, I think, in those days. Yeah, on the me low mount, because I must have punched out when it was still coming in on 24 volt. Anyway, apparently it's not a cool thing to do. So I had to pull my winch apart and sort of change these brushes out. I got my winch later. We were on the pierce. Billy comes along with this bloody sawn up bit of firewood and decides to play lawn bowls through all my parts and tools and shit. And this must have been midnight by the time that stage finished. Anyway, about 3 o'clock in the morning after he hits a pierce and whatever, I've gone into bed, into the swag, and Billy's forgot where his swag was. So I think he commandeered someone else's swag. So he's gone head first in swag. This poor old boy, mate's just turned up, seen his boots out of his swag, and and I think you told him to F off. Poor old mate. I think he found a car to sleep in. Anyway, they were really good nights. Yeah, good times.
Again, this would be a true story. Noah Billy Geddes. I understand this story.
I've lost my swag to Billy Geddes before.
that was the day that we it was upside down and we couldn't find your car keys. Remember that?
Yes.
Billy happened.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
That's only because you were scared.
Yeah.
Don't be scared.
And don't tell Billy where you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Hide.
No,
just hide.
Usually, I set my swag up too early that night. That's the secret as well. Yeah, too early.
As hard as it is when you're drunk trying to set the swag, you must do it at point of sleeping.
Yep.
But that actually led to, again, did you win that event? Second?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Win.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like you really, because that was a stronghold. You know, you had the likes of Laurie Sternbeck,
Normie Walters.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
there was Swamp Donkeys would have been there probably. Mark Thomas would have been as in Mark Thomas Swamp Donkeys.
Yeah, it might have been. He might have towed his camper van there with his ute that he was competing in at the time or something like that.
Yeah, because that was a thing. Like remember early wagon days with Swampy?
Yep.
Oh, that was pretty cool. And then the other one was who was pretty big was Mr. Sheet Metal. He was driving the Greg's car at the time.
Absolutely.
Sheedy's pedaling the hell out of his Class 5 now too.
Yeah.
Proper.
Which he built himself.
When he gets that thing that it actually hangs together at that pace, it's going to be fast for a class. Like I don't mean that for a Class 5, but man, at the Don, Sheedy was flying.
You can remember Russ like Sheedy in that blue GQ. In the speed stages though. He was quick. Man.
I entered a rally down at out of Brisbane. There was a Queensland rally thing, and he's there. He was really good. Like I hardly knew the guy. And he's just like, "Oh, Russ, do you need a hand?" and whatever else before the rally. And I thought, "Oh, I'm right." And met him down there. I think he pedaled his Datsun or something he had at the time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because that's his background, isn't it?
I don't think I've seen him.
We should say Michael Ranson is the guy's name. We're all calling him Sheedy, but it's Michael Ranson. And back in the day, he came in. He was another one that exploded into the scene. Like very cool in that 45 video. And can steer. And could bomb hills. Remember that?
Well, man, he turned up with this push bike. I think he steered left and it went right, and that confused gave a lot of people some headaches when they hit the deck.
Love it. And that's something you would have loved, wouldn't it? Was that doing your head in? You just had to learn how to do it?
Nah.
Yes, it did. No, but so that's awesome. So obviously that dipped the toe in the water for the winch challenge stuff, because then you had a bit of a renaissance, didn't you? Like, I mean, was it not long after that you went to Cliffhanger?
Yeah, cliffhanger. So
because I mean, in case you haven't noticed, that's a big jump, Mason. You're like, okay, I'll do a weekend flying running around the Super Rallycross. Then you're like, oh, I might win XWC, and then I'll just drive my street car. I know it didn't tell the story, but I'm going to drive my GQ to cliffhanger and then have a crack at it, and have a crack. He did.
Well, very fortunate that ARB, Greg, he took over ARB from Mark Lacey. He moved down to Brisbane, and he decided to take on a winch comp truck. It was a TD at the time, and I did a 4.8 conversion in it, and it was like fresh, man. It was like fresh air. So that got trucked down. That's when I think Billy. Oh, there's some nuisance to this one. There's like Billy, Shane Marsden,
Corey
Howe. Anyway, so this opens up a whole can of worms.
Do it.
Actually.
We've got time.
But so Billy just got his pilot's license by that time.
No, I had it a while.
I had it for a little while. Yeah, right. Yeah. So Shane Marsden hates flying, right? And so they'll jump in this plane, and we were already down there. I think your cattle truck took us down there. I think. Did we all the cattle?
Kingy
took
us.
the
I think
cattle.
Kingy
took you down.
Something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, so we're waiting there. We're just on the piers and whatever else. The day before, this aircraft just came flying over real low. Like, I mean, the Spoonie was there and so on. And everyone's just like ducked, And here's Billy. Oh, they're trying to find an airstrip to land on because it's like in the middle of, like, just outside. I'm near Broken Hill somewhere anyway. And
Wycliffe's, wasn't it? Yeah, Wycliffe.
Yeah, Cobar?
Cobar.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that finally got picked up, and they turned up at our camp, and Marsden was green, like dead set. He was dead set green.
Oh, dead set. Yeah.
He did not enjoy it.
When we were flying in, like Corey's up beside me, and I'm flying, and Corey's like a typical Corey. He's like right into it. He's got his maps, and he's like, "Oh yeah, give me a go." And he's wheeling the plane. Anyway, as we're coming in, the clouds, we're above the clouds because it's smoother up there, and you're like, I didn't know Marsden didn't like flying.
Yeah, Hound Dog was not comfortable.
No, I don't know why he got in, but anyway,
peer pressure,
and he's in there like the ever ready bunny bounce. Oh no, you weren't in there, but yeah. So Marsden's at the back, and we're coming in, and the clouds come in under us, and we sort of like, I've talked to Corey, and you wouldn't believe it, halfway along the intercom stopped working, so Corey and I could talk, but Marsden couldn't hear a thing we were saying. So for all he knew,
starts getting real nervous.
We're freaking dying.
He thinks you deliberately turned it off.
So we're flying along, and there's a bit of a gap in the clouds. I said, oh well, we better get under the clouds so we can actually see what we're doing. So I roll the plane over, go through the clouds, and we're flying around. And from that moment, Marsden dead set thought we were going to die. And so we fly down, and if you're at Cobar,
that's interesting for the man, like the wild man that Marsden is. I didn't pick that.
I didn't pick that either.
No.
Turns out.
Yeah. Turns out that Marsden also likes frogs and snakes. Not.
There you go.
It's great.
So anyway, we're cruising around under the clouds, and found the airstrip, and one, that's the checkoff point. You're like, oh cool, found where we've got to land. And for me, it's the place to land. It's a mailbox. It's a driveway that's straight, and it's marked on the map, and it's marked on the GPS. So you tick that off. Then we go like, hey, I wonder where the race is. And you look over, it's Cobar. So you just look over the horizon. There's a cloud of dust. You're like, I reckon that'll be it. So we trim the old plane up, get up for about 180 knots, and we're cruising along, and we're like, let's buzz these suckers. And Corey's like, oh shit, yeah,
I'm in.
And obviously we can't hear what Marsden's thoughts on this is.
He's like, no, I don't like this idea.
Well, he's probably saying that. Yeah. But anyway, we're about bloody 300 feet, full tits around the corner, and we're straight over the camp, and one of the boys was on top of a truck. He thought he was going to die.
That was Spoonie.
Yeah. Anyway, we
come
back. Oh, that was great. Straight back to the airstrip. Yeah, set her up, put her in, landed, got out. Corey and I like high five, and this is great. Marsden gets out and goes, "Don't fucking talk to me.
I'm not getting back in that."
He's like, literally, and we're like, I'm like, what, man? He's full on freaking out. He thought he was going to die. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, that were good times. And remember at that event too, there's an old emu that was dead in the creek. And
Kingy.
And
wowzers.
so we're in the work unit of ARB with.
Is this when Billy's love of smoking started?
No. I'll honestly say I had nothing to do with it.
So anyway, obviously it's all me and the emu on the work comp truck. And anyway, so we're on the piss and we get back and we thought, fuck, we've got to get some sleep. We got comp next day. Anyway, so I end up in my swag with a bloody loading ramp under me swag. Thanks, guys. And with all the ribs on it. And I hear this chop, chop, and laughing and giggling, chop, 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 chop. And it turns out they've managed to chop these legs off this bloody this emu, and they zip tied it to spoonies.
Just to clarify, guys, previously dead.
Already dead.
Already dead.
Yeah. No, it's not legless. Yeah,
it ended up legless.
Yeah. And so they've zip tied these legs on Spoonie's comp truck on the spokes of his wheels. And so he woke up in the morning pretty confused about it all.
How did this happen?
Obviously, Queenslanders get a bad name wherever we go.
Yeah.
And especially Central Queensland.
Yes. Anywhere you go, including Vegas, Reno,
Hey,
Baja.
woo.
No, I've heard it. Believe me.
Yeah,
there is actually.
Yeah.
Or Cornick.
Yeah,
One of
right,
the two. Or Corey.
Yeah,
Corey seems like the common denominator.
Corey, definitely.
Got to get Corey and Cornick on here too.
Oh, we've been trying, but listen, so that leads us to the cliffhanger thing, because so you ran through cliffhanger in this GQ, it's registered, it's a street car, 35-inch Cymexes.
I think they were at the time.
Yep.
Oh no, they actually were 37s. It might have been back in the day, but
I feel like you're lying to me. There's no way Mason ran 37s.
No.
They'd be too heavy. Oh, no.
He,
Sorry. Well, I'm talking more about your shorty specifically, because you were running on, like, say, a 35. And were you still running a homemade set of LTRs in those days, or was this
pretty much?
Yep. So again, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening along at home, just to understand how much Russ tinkers, I'm paraphrasing. I know a little bit about your car, mate.
You remembered this.
I remember little bits and pieces. You lifted the shock mount essentially and the coil mount, ran 80 series coils, or Jeep coils.
No, 80 series, I think.
80.
Oh.
There, yeah. Well, because they were Jeep shock absorbers, because they were the longest OME open to close length. They were like comp spec OME ones, and you added the LTRs to a set of nitro charges. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I think. So the LTRs.
It pains him, but it's true.
So the remote canister sort of obviously looked pretty good, and so I machined apart the end of the seal, sort of set up and sort of changed the valving over, and that was a pretty crude way to get a remote canister shock in the car.
Yeah, because to be honest, Mason, we're talking about like an LTR in those days, and again, I'm talking 2001, 2, 3, 2000.
Well, not.
Like we're
99 was my current cliffhanger.
So 99.
99, yeah.
And you're talking like these things were like, am I lying? $3,000 in 2000?
Oh no, they were it might have been $500 each or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So it was like 2000.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, you were buying nitro charges at what? $114.
Something like that, yeah.
So just to give you guys, because again, this is where it gets hard with this podcast, and we're talking about the old days, because we are old boys now apparently, but people didn't spend $2,000 on a bypass shock for a Nissan Patrol. Like that wasn't a thing. Like it's not reality in those days. So
not for a street car.
It didn't even exist.
Yeah.
So, like it's interesting because again, you sort of get on Instagram and scroll through and you see all these coil overed 79s and bits and pieces. But that wasn't a thing back in those days. So to have a custom made set of LTRs, so you had a remote res in a nitro charger on a custom linked shock, it was pretty groundbreaking, revolutionary. Like not many people had that sort of stuff, mate.
Game.
And it's I know you don't game changer. I know you don't like saying that, but for the sake of people at home, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that if you're a young fella at home and you've got a GQ or an 80 or a whatever, I know you don't like this word, but a Jeep, you don't necessarily have to spend $1 billion to create, you don't have to tick all the boxes. Like I know it's nice to be able to, but there's a lot of stuff you can do if you tinker away in your little 2-bay shed and create your own little, piece of amazing bits of gear. And
it's always good, yeah.
And it's competitive. It's like again, it's proven a lot of things.
More than competitive.
Yeah, because we are jumping around. This is what this podcast does. But we're talking about cliffhanger. We're talking about emus on spokes. But that leads us to you did very well at that cliffhanger.
Yeah, actually, I got my timelines way wrong, man. It was 99 when I bought the Patrol, and I think it was. The first winch challenge was actually a cliffhanger. My Patrol 07.
Yep, that makes
Still
sense.
an Omni emus, remote.
Well, what year was the first CQ? Because you did CQ, so that must have been 06. Because we did it in 08.
Yep.
So, and that would have been a couple of years in. So you were competing at that stage. That was probably you're competing at Land Cruiser Mountain Park, but I'm talking about competing in winch challenges.
Yeah. And I was very lucky to actually go there. So Greg from ARB, he couldn't make it. And so he gave me the entry.
I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So
You
I
tried
had-
the
this is
Ute
for
one
Cliffhanger.
year, didn't you?
Yeah, that was the white GQ.
Yeah.
And, so gave me the entry. So I had a week and a half to get my car to suit the CCDA rules and all the rest of it. So, man, I just ripped out this checklist and I just started punching away at things like roll cage mods to meet those standards. And the list was way beyond what I could deal with, but I had a couple of innovative ideas like winch in sort of through a mouthpiece and stuff like that.
Oh,
Worked
wow.
like
I
a
forgot
champion.
that.
So bringing that back, that was obviously because the low mount was so fast
Yeah.
that you, crikey,
Wow.
didn't want to take a
Well-
hand off the wheel, or
Well, I didn't want to stop winching when you got a good line. So I couldn't think of any other way you can take a hand off the wheel and hit something without steering. And I had
Yes.
steering quick. Now I think I might not have had that back then actually. But yeah, so I used to grab this mouthpiece, which I set up a little. This is like the bottom of the list. Like this is like if I get time. So the night before, I think I siliconed this micro
3
switch in this
a.m.
mouth guard.
I've got time.
Yeah, and
I should get 10 minutes of sleep. Nah.
Well, the guys are going to keep me awake anyway. I may as well pick something.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So had this thing Velcro in the roll cage, put it in my mouth at the bottom of the winch wall and just hammered in. And it was great. Just kept winching. I just had to remember to open my mouth up before I hit the tree. As I could do. So,
Imagine that. You bite down and it just keeps
That's
switching. That's crazy. I'd never thought about that.
Like the kid on the YouTube videos that just like pins it on the peewee.
Yes. Clench up. It's the wrong thing.
And the first time it actually got used was on the first winch wall at Cliffhanger. And we got down there and Kingy, he was my navvy and he didn't have time to even get his head around the GPS. So we knew it a lot of things.
Tell me he didn't use the mouthpiece as well.
No.
Okay.
No.
Cool.
No, lucky for him. And yeah, so I was changing tires like Cymexes on rims at the event because I just ran out of time before we started the day before. Like, you know how stiff those bloody Cymexes are and putting.
I think I still got some somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. They'd have an expiry date.
Yeah, you don't need air in those ones.
No,
Can you even buy them anymore?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Oh, I guess I'm going cheap.
they were like, yeah, there you go. They're only 20 years out of date.
Yeah, do 180 k's.
It's
on that.
amazing. Yeah, I think my Cymex used to stretch to 37 inches to some of the speeds we'll reach. And I
You,
think,
you
I don't know.
remember when they come out and they had the jungle trekkers?
Oh, yeah.
Loved them.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like you had a Cessna.
Oh,
engine in the
yeah.
back
Oh,
of you when you're driving downtown.
Absolutely.
I like how you used to have to set up the sidewalls to turn a corner about maybe I don't know. It depends on the speed you're doing, but yeah, about a third before the corner sort of thing. You have to start stretching
It's
things
more
around.
like a
like-
yacht, really. You
Yeah.
just set the tack around.
Set
yeah.
the Scandinavian flick into the corner to get the, yep. No, they
Yeah.
were a wild bits of gear. So you raced on Cymexes that year?
Yeah.
And that's well, sorry, man. Again, I know we keep jumping around, but you were originally, am I on the right track? You originally wanted to drive down to Cliffhanger with a
Yep.
trailer, and then
Yep.
everyone talked you out of it.
Yeah, I think Kingy didn't prefer that option. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he offered his trailer and his vehicle and towed down. Yeah, it was great.
Brilliant. Because there
Mm.
was a crew going down from Central Queensland in those days. It was big. It was
Oh.
three cars.
Jukesy.
Yep.
Did he
you-
compete that time though?
I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure Jukesy.
No.
No, was he?
No, it wasn't. No, because he actually towed me back to camp. Oh no, that wasn't the
No,
Ute.
no, Jukesy was in his.
He was too.
Jukesy
Yeah.
was in his 100. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like there was a couple of cars that from CQ that might have gone that year.
I think you're right, actually. And the
Mm.
GQ would have, in my shorty, it would have been actually. Yeah, the Ute was different.
Yeah.
But it was super impressive anyway, because then where does that lead you after all this learning and all this racing and all this moving? What was your first outcome?
Well, that event, I actually broke a rear, broke a rear axle. It was about 30 k's out of camp. So by the time I got back to camp, the whole diff center was destroyed. So we tried to winch it out and it's funny.
At
so
pace.
At pace. So they're competing. We're losing positions. Like we're pretty well up on the top end of the leaderboard there. And so got this diff center out eventually and scooped as much metal as we can out, then tried to tip some diff oil in it. We couldn't pump it. It was just that cold. So tried engine oil, tried all sorts of things. And auto training fluid was the only thing that we could tip in there because I had a long range fuel tank and so on, to get us back to the comp, not knowing what the other stages were. So we got this diff back in and raced back to stage, and we missed a whole stage and we were out of order for the next. So we got a 50-point penalty for that as well. And off we went again. And it turns out that the last stage was like a kidney bean racetrack, like full noise, high speed. It was awesome. And,
Doesn't sound like you'd like that at all, Mason.
oh, it was great. And we nailed it, luckily. And so at the end of that race, the smoke coming out the back, the pinion bearing seals were just cooking, and it turned out that we couldn't even drive home on it. Like we had to pull the tail shaft off and reverse up hills. And that night we spent so I had 2 wrecked diffs on the top with 2 broken diff. Everything was just stuffed. I had to build one diff out of all these parts. I was mix matching stuff everywhere. And we built the diff and finished that about 2 in the morning or something like that, and off we were again. And we end up with those big penalties. We end up a second outright, only 28 points behind the winner. Actually, yeah, it was great,
it's unbelievable. And then this leads to so again, in case you missed that second outright in Cliffhanger, that's a car that you drive to work. You were prepared to tow. When I say trailer,
I still would have driven it home, though.
I know you would have. Because this leads to me too. What did you do when you got home?
I don't know.
Went to Coffs Harbour, didn't you?
Do
I know more about this story than you do, or did you go straight to the Cape?
No, the Cape trip, that was at May Day weekend.
Right.
Won all weekend, luckily, and outright as well. And this is a great thing. So the afternoon, the last of the comps, we went forward driving, wheeling all night. Like, yeah, we're pretty hyped up and keen to just pull skids wherever and winch, extreme winch walls and stuff like that. We got back to camp daylight. So all we did was went back to camp, stopped drinking, packed up camp, threw it in the back.
This is obviously not a competition.
No, not this part.
Just
yeah, somehow got back to Rocky and unloaded Cruiser Park and loaded Cape and kept driving to Cape. I did 7.5 hours. Still no sleep since Saturday night. This might have been a Monday by this. And we slept our first night in the Creb track, and it was just an awesome trip, man. It was just great.
I feel like you're setting me up though, because I like this Creb track story. But what was the trip that you finished a comp and then you put a rooftop tent on and went solo touring?
No, I never put a roof. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you went
swag man.
He went there. Yeah, you went down to Vic.
I feel like you're setting me up.
Didn't you?
Yeah, it's Victoria. Oh, that might have been.
Here we go.
You're right.
Here we go.
Yeah,
I remember something about it came home from something and then you did like a
high country or something.
He maybe changed the oil in the auto.
Something, and I feel like it went full
stretch some more rings.
Like it had a borrowed rooftop tent or something.
Just pop the head off again.
Oz tent.
Oz tent, right? Sorry, I might have been on the wrong.
Wait up, you just said I've never put a rooftop tent on it, and then admitted that you own a rooftop tent.
No, you're thinking.
Then he might have bent some rings back straight.
Gotcha.
He got a chassis back straight.
I love it because I mean that's what, in my opinion, in CQ, that's what you're known for, is the ability to not just compete but back it up. Because I think that's something that's kind of special, mate. I'm not just blowing wind. I mean, don't you reckon, Bill? Like the fact that you, like, a lot of guys have comp cars, and I love comp cars. I've got a 37-inch tire Jeep. I love wheeling it. I would never drive it to Victoria. It would suck. Like, you know what I mean? Like the fact that you go and do Cliffhanger. You've got this crazy winch. You come first in XWC, you come second in Cliffhanger, and then you go, hey, you know what I need to do? Drive to Tasmania. No, that doesn't even, that to me.
Yeah, well, even in some, remember that trip we did to Doonside that time? We went up and Swaffy had the Bumblebee, like the yellow shorty, and we went.
You learned how to jump the car then.
And so this is a great story because Swaff just put his first set of bump stops in this thing. And it was like, we're going to send this thing to the moon.
I wonder what hydro bumps do.
so this is like testing everything. So of course it's supercharged LS and like nothing else except for a set of hydraulic bump stops. And like Dad said, he sent that thing that hard. He bent the chassis in it.
That's crazy.
Anyway, so we're back at we're back at the back of Doonside, and Russ is like, we're driving some pretty nice hills there, and Russ, what'd you break us? You broke one CV, he broke.
Oh, that's a good night.
That's a good night.
And then I don't know, we had to do something. He broke the locker in the front, so we had to wait for him to fix the locker in the front of the shorty, and then so he drove then back home, and not only home, he went to another mate's place. Well, I think he went to Three Rivers. He went to Three Rivers. Driving on one.
That doesn't seem like you get parts at Three Rivers, but you never know.
Yeah, on one front axle with the diff lock in, so the thing would drive.
No, I think I busted. So Marsden was in the car. I think this night. End up through Byfield.
Yes.
2-wheel drive only.
No, one-wheel drive.
No, I had to. I had the rear end. Seriously, I'm not that bloody.
No, you were. Literally, you drove along in one.
No, on the way home, I might have been, but
getting
there, I would have. I needed to.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
I might have messed that up a little bit.
But
yeah,
that night was awesome, man. Like, actually, Pete Luttrell, this is another good story, actually. I'm pretty sure it was that night. And I got almost divorced over this, actually. So my missus at this point,
I feel like you've got a lot of these stories.
we just had our 25th wedding anniversary the other day. God bless her soul.
I thought you were about to say
She
that
is a
night.
good, she is a good woman.
And anyway, so we end up in Byfield, and I had these really cool tracks in the backdrop there. And like, there's one wooden bridge with no planks on it, so it's just two beams, right? And us patrols with our wheel track, we just have to put a wheel over one side, sort of slide along, usually using a winch. Anyway, Pete Luttrell has Hilux now at a track, and I'll be guiding me onto these two logs. And he'd just nail like a smart ass, just perfectly tracked. And I'd just start steering him off. Go, yeah, I better this way down, until he fell off the bloody logs, and then he had to winch it.
I remember this.
That sounds like sounds right.
Sounds like typical Nissan jealousy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Left.
Yeah, right, buddy. You sure? Yeah, mate. We got to. Yeah, we actually got to get some more adventurous trips under our belts, I reckon.
Sounds good. Definitely sounds good. But yeah, no, it's amazing because, again, like what you're basically saying is that, again, you're doing all these things and driving your car and wheeling, and and I think that's what's so fascinating about your car, and for so many people, is the ability that it can do that.
Well, I think that drive time's everything.
Yes.
It could almost be another 100 horsepower. You know what I mean? Like, to just feel comfortable in your car, know what it's going to do, and just I don't know. I think it has to be an adventure. I have known nothing different.
No. Well, it's funny you say this, because actually this leads us to an interesting off-road racing debate that we have a lot. And I realize that there's a lot of changes, because you're a bit of a suspension. I know you won't like this statement again, but we've all had a fair bit to do with suspension. It's interesting because I see one thing that a lot of people do. I see it all the time at every event. And I understand the concept of it. But a lot of guys change a lot of suspension setups during the race or whatever it is. And I feel like that leads to a lot of guys that aren't necessarily comfortable with the way that car necessarily reacts in a certain situation. You know what I mean? Like, because because you've gone to tubes and bits and pieces. Like, if you have you got tubed shocks on your car now?
Yeah, Fox.
Yep.
Oh, Fox.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but what I guess I'm saying is, if you turn 10 turns on a tube, that's a pretty big change. And I understand you might be looking for stability in a prologue. And I understand that some people that test day after day after day after day might be able to achieve that. But what I don't understand is, I think we had some really good conversation with Harley, and this is a long way around. Harley Letner is who I was talking about, but it leads to you is that me mate, definitely you're very, very comfortable in your car. You understand how it reacts in every situation, essentially, like whether it be that sand drop off or whether it be, and I see that with car guys and racing guys as well, is there's a lot of guys that just don't, because the word there was seat time. I can tell you, my opinion, boys, I talk about this a lot, is if I could have, and this is a bit of not a shot at him, but it's a conversation we have a fair bit. No, well, I guess I'm saying, if I had 20 grand to spend and I had a 600 horsepower LS, and 20 grand's my budget. It's different if you've got endless budget and you can do both. But if you can race a full season versus another 100 horsepower, I feel the full season will make you a better driver than 100 horsepower ever will, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Like,
well, I use, sorry to sort of cut in, but I use in everything that I do off road, I relate a lot of stuff back to Russ, because you can't really beat someone that knows their car. No matter what, like, even if it's got a few little things that aren't quite right, but if you, like, we'll talk like Greg Gartner and like the people who are comfortable in their own skin and comfortable in their car, even if it's not completely perfect, they can, you can drive around a few things. Like, I keep saying you can get through that section, make a YouTube video, but you can get through that section, your car doesn't like it, and then do better in the whole run of the race. If you can find where your car, like, and then maybe you'll pull up after that and you might change some things in your car so you can get through that bad section better and quicker. But if you just can't, someone who's just prepping their car, not driving it, and then they're always angry because it doesn't do what they want it to do. Well, if you aren't driving with some problems, you don't have, it comes back to the user to me.
And to relate that back to the winch challenge and the go fast forward drive scene, I see that with the guys, because you're talking like guys like Spoonie and Sheedy and, these guys, and then now Mark Thomas, like, the Swamp Doggies boys.
Oh, yeah.
Like what I think that they do so well, and Carl, like Carl's on a tear at the moment. And I feel like they know what their car's going to do in a given situation because they're doing quite a bit of seat time. Like it's a fantastic thing to see, because I think that's something that we're all guilty of in any form of motorsport, any form, is you don't start your car until the Saturday morning of the race, and then you expect to jump in
100%
and go 100%. It's nearly impossible.
Yeah. Well, actually, Mark Thomas and Carl, they're very smart drivers.
Very smart. And again, I feel like they really understand how that car is going to behave in a certain situation. And listen,
well, I think another prime example of that is the Blowout Racing boys. I think they're on a bit of a tear as well. Like the Patrol that does the Triple S, and then they also do the they're up at Don River and stuff like that.
Are they Marks? Marks is their brothers?
Concrete.
Yeah,
they're like own a concrete service business, but Blowout Racing, they're doing really well. I think they're like undefeated this year in winch challenges and stuff like that. And then they also race Class 8 as well. So they're sort of that epitome of a lot of seat time, driving their car, getting to know it really, really well in all situations as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're doing really well.
They might have been at the Triple S last weekend, but I thought so. I just thought it was my beers, but
no, Blowout Racing, GQ. Yep.
Good guys. Good guys.
Yeah, really good.
I'll double down. I think their last name is Marks.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like it's Cam Marks or something. Like
Cam wasn't there, but
no, someone else.
No, you double down for nothing, mate.
Oh, imagine if I'm wrong or if I'm right. Either way, it's in the comments. I know I'm getting slayed, but anyway.
The hate mail's getting worse.
There's some name.
The hate mail's getting worse.
Yeah. Oh, boy, big shoulders, mate. Big shoulders.
They're like a brown snake, mate. They're not existent.
Oh, well. Anyway, let's get back to Josh Curran's racing. Oh, no.
Hey, DC. Yeah, you're right. It's Josh Marks.
Boom!
You're right about the comment section coming through for you.
Listen, the only reason I remember is that I was calling it up at Don River on the commentary box. I remember that their name was something. I just knew it was Mark.
I'm getting slaughtered in the comment section right now.
Yeah, good. Fantastic. Best thing I know.
I'm not going to look at the computer for a while.
No, but listen, it was great. Now, listen, we've talked a lot of GQ, and I love this, but let's lead to, Billy, when are we getting Mason in an off-road racing car?
That'd be pretty cool.
I reckon it'd be very cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
You have competed at Fink, haven't you?
As an Avi.
Yeah, as an Avi in a side-by-side.
Actually, I was going to mention this because, the people you meet, and one, like there's a whole group of people from Tamworth and so on, like Ian Hughes and so on. He come up to one of the Sione Park winch comps. And then we met up again at Cliffhanger when I had me shorty. And we've been best mates ever since. It's just those sort of things that are long-term relationships. Like went to his Bucks party down at Coffs Harbour, and we saw the World Road Championships and obviously the wedding, and there's like Cody Crocker involved with that.
That's the other thing that Russ has done with that same shorty. He's done rally in that.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Crazy. He's done a lot of rally.
Yeah.
Actually, a rally sprint only recently, to me, we had diff beside the park company.
What again?
It's battle opinion teeth through the casting.
Didn't dent my head this time. The story I didn't get to tell because of my dog.
We'll just keep that under wraps.
You're right, though. That's amazing because a Patrol is not necessarily a fantastic rally car, is it? But you've done quite a few rallies, like locally in CQ.
Yeah.
Including a Queensland National.
I did that. Yeah. That didn't end well.
We'll leave it. We'll leave it.
We'll leave that one.
But you did it, is the point.
Yeah.
Because I think again, this all gets back to what the conversation that we're having is. You don't necessarily, I know you've got a lot of nice parts, but it's over a 20-year span, right? But you've just slowly progressed. You don't need a $200,000 competition car just to do one event a year. Like, you can work into these things.
You can. And look, it's just like even recent times, like bloody Dave Casey's put me up and saying, look, who wants to race Russ Mason at the Rocky Nats? And I'm going, oh, you're joking. So I just kept that discreet. So now I have to go and tweak and stuff with things to try and get a bit quicker. I love the way he says I've got to.
If you weren't competitive, it wouldn't matter.
Shut up, really. You can't. Yeah. So I'm only an old school engine because I can't change it because the CAM's ruling that I've got into rallying with, I've got to keep with that engine configuration as far as I can understand. So I'm racing against Barrows.
It's sort of grandfathered in, is it?
Yeah, she's an old forklift engine.
Yeah.
It's a petrol version of a TD. And And yeah, so I got LSs and barrows and stuff, and I was just, I hate
Do you know what might fix that? Spray.
Nitrous. Yeah,
Yeah.
nitrous.
Spray will
Great
give you another
wines,
bit.
Danny Curran. Great wines. I like that.
But how good a rally is? I just love it.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Like,
and
it's-
again, the seat time.
It's well, look, it's just this last rally was so funny. It's a rally sprint at Byfield, so the drags were on the same weekend, unfortunately. But so I commandeered I talked our receptionist Maxine into jumping in the navvy seat.
Yes.
Now I got to remember she
Up,
only
up.
she recently was in Sam O'Keefe's car when he ended it over a sand dune.
Yes.
Right, so she probably hates shorties at the moment, or
Yep.
at the minute.
And for probably ones that look like yours.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so she jumped. So I got a CAMS license, whatever else, and as if we just lined up. This is how I hadn't raced for a bit in rallies and whatever else, and she had the notes. And I pretty much been a rally sprint. You can sort of drive it as you said, but just wanted some sort of notes to keep you guided. And my first big corner, man, I just like Byfield's green at the moment, so you got this really tractionable track that's only the width of a patrol because they're pretty wide. You get in the green, you got no traction. And so I come off this off-cambered blind bloody corner, which I'm usually pretty confident at, and I just lost ground, and there's all these new pine trees lined up, and I'm just scratching away full noise, and I actually scraped the bark off one of these pine trees. I look back, and that's pretty close.
Yeah.
And
Well, I keep putting it down to like, did you? It's kind of like getting shot.
Mm.
You either get shot or you don't. You don't kind of get shot. So if you miss it by this much,
yeah,
you missed it.
well, I got it, but only just. Yeah. But
I walked
anyway,
into getting shot. That's how I walked in. Brilliant.
but that was so much fun, man. Like so many stories I really can't talk about after that event. But anyway, we helped.
We
We
were
helped some
talking.
people.
We were talking about getting Russ into an off-road car.
Yes.
Yes.
And,
Yeah,
and having it
absolutely.
at Fink.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
Well,
you,
he's done thing.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Well-
did think. What year do think? Was it
Yeah.
it's the year after?
There
you
was
did-
a year in the pub when a local I gave him a drink.
Oh, yes.
15,
Should
16.
we bring that story up? No,
No,
probably
we're
don't.
not doing
Lots of people know
Actually,
that story.
Corny's probably dry reaching now just thinking about that one.
Mm,
But
so
yeah.
Corey's laughing really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah. But no, it's an amazing event out there. We
It
talk
is.
about Think a fair bit and how much it has shaped Australian off-road racing as well as all the American stuff, obviously. But it is really that good when you get out there. But man, it'd be great to see you in something a little bit bigger, a little bit more suspension travel. Even now, I mean, isn't it crazy? Josh will bash me right now, but anyway, isn't it crazy in 15, like from 2015 to 2016, now to 22, how Can-Am's, Polaris's, all these cars,
yeah.
like they're a different game again now. Like what you were in was fast.
No.
Yeah, okay. No, I didn't want to but they were a good little thing.
Yeah.
Good little thing. Now
Yeah.
they're race cars. Like it's pretty impressive.
Well,
You've got a Can-Am.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
use it for pre-running and
Yeah.
and
And I understand. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I love throwing my, problems opinion out there. That's the word I was looking at. I was, I'll double down. They'll never win outright. Like they just can't.
look, they're doing their title races. Like that's
True,
the thing.
but I'm
Like,
saying I'm more so
Very
talking
Talking
about
about Fink,
off-road
probably
race.
more
Yeah.
as a
look, honestly, I like Can. I think they like when I say
They're a
Can,
great
I'm
thing.
thinking side by sides in general.
Yes.
The issue that I find with them is if a lot of people did their calculations
Yeah.
and looked at class 10,
Yes.
like
Yes.
it
This is
seems,
our point, isn't it?
it seems like a cheap
Yep.
start to racing.
Yep.
And you can buy this thing. It looks like a
Yep.
race car, and then say I'm going to go racing it.
Yep.
So then you pull the roll cage out of it because it's folded up tin.
Yes.
And then you put a whole roll cage on the chassis that's folded up tin.
Yep.
And then you race it, you beat the crap out of it, and especially if you can drive, because you're going to be beating it up
For
a
sure.
bit. And they go. Like, furthermore, when you drive one, you're thinking, like, why don't these things win more races?
Mm.
Like, they really can go.
Mm.
But at the end of it, like, you've just got this car that you've bent up all the bottom end. But if people actually did their homework and looked at class 10s, element cars, mate,
Mm.
Phew,
Yep.
the Aussie built elements, like at Dawn, like Havey, Battle, like those cars were cranking, and not just cranking in the straight lines, they were hitting good bumps.
Yeah. Oh, listen, the Australian stuff nowadays is super impressive, Mason. I know you'd love it. Like Element, definitely.
SS Race Tech. Yep.
the Ursig stuff that he's putting out now,
Yes.
like, you know, like over at Kalgoorlie, there was an army of Australian cars out there. They were doing really well and they look great. They work great. But, well, it's interesting you say that because also, Billy, I reckon the other one that's interesting there is the Class 7 and 8. Now, I would not discourage anyone from racing Class 7 and 8. Great competition. 8, I'm now talking about GQ Patrols racing, you know, like the Ked Battle era, the Sandy Bowman era, and that. Again, if Sandy wants to race a Class 8, I'll be the first one cheering him on. You know what I mean? But the maintenance involved, and you probably know this, in keeping a Class 8 or a fast Class 7 alive, honestly, a Class 10 car is just so, the bearings are designed for it, the axles are designed for it. Like, we got full seasons out of CVs, like, you know what I mean? Like, and you're probably
and that's why I like, so when I started with the winch cars and then we went to the performance four-wheel drive stuff through Cruiser Park and I just found we just stuck big engines in them just because it was cool, but we just broke a lot of stuff. And I'm, you know, like I chase cows and I make big rocks into little rocks. So, and honestly, my whole pit crew tell me the only thing that's a wire that you're allowed to touch is in a fence. So I'm not allowed to touch anything in the car. So
again, this makes a lot of sense now, Bill.
Yeah. So I need to go to a race where I can go and compete, and I'm driving something that I know is going to last, and I don't want something on 10/10ths of the edge of its life every time I race it. So I made the transition pretty quickly from a performance four-wheel drive that was huge engine and all the components are pretty stock and factory. And I just went, I'm not going to waste my money there. I'm going to get out of that. And I bought the old C10 Chev, which we off Bernie Gwynn, my man, and just loved it. Like it was just, because it was just you in the car and your navvy and you're out racing and you could put if you drove it sensibly, you could put it back on the trailer.
Yes.
And that's what I've always liked about, the truck that I race is that it's so simple. You got a big ass diff. You've got a pretty simple gearbox. You've got an engine that you should build that won't break, and you can go do multiple races, and then it's just prep. So nowadays we got Steve. Steve's all over the car. We do a race, he preps it, and we're done.
You pitched it to me. I reckon. So we've decided Mason's building a Class 5. Is that what you said?
No.
A trophy truck.
We'll put him in the old Hellboy.
I could not treat my shorty like the Fink and stuff. I just could not do that to my car. You know what I mean? Like you have to pick and choose.
You could once you buy a race car,
something that's race specific.
Look, honestly, there's a few people I'd like to see. I'd like to see Russ race one, even AB.
Yep.
So AB Benson. I'd love to see AB.
Absolutely.
In a
BT's another one that should be driving.
And it's life's one of those things. I didn't start like I wasn't racing when I was 24, 25. I rode a few bikes when I was around 25, 26,
which is a huge stepping stone to anything.
Yeah. Which is all bike riders end up good off-road races or good races in general. And so it was just a timing thing. Like I didn't have the money back then to go racing, and then obviously now I'm quite a bit older, even you gentlemen.
No.
Except you. Yeah. You've got me.
Wow, the finger point and all. But you're right. You've got to let your business mature and you've got to do all this stuff. You're right.
But I like to think that I keep things pretty real in our racing. Like our car's not, it's 10-year-old now. And there's a lot of things that people are putting in their cars that are the bee's knees. And we kind of look at it and go, like, do we really need it? For the amount of racing that we're doing, do we really need it? And so we compromise on a few things. And honestly, we can go to races like Fink and we can go to races like Don. And the things, things crank and people.
It's fast.
People are having fun. And
the smoke is going.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
I always reckon when you're going down a racetrack and you can tell by the people on the side of the track how well you're doing.
Yep.
Like if they're running away from the track, you're doing pretty well.
It's definitely a Bill move right there. Yeah. No, you're right though. Absolutely right. And take it. This is a long way back to sort of what my first point was, that I said, if you've only got, and I'm not saying anyone's only got, but if you've got X amount of dollars, go and have fun. Go and have fun and drive and have a great time. And, I think that experience is way more valuable than, again, might be different if we're talking 300 to 900 horsepower. Well, 900 horsepower is pretty nice, isn't it? Like everyone likes that. I get that point. I'm more so talking if you're talking 300 to 400 horsepower or, like whatever it is that you could, if you can go from triple bypasses to 4 tubes, the gain is there. Like, there's no question. Technology's come a long way, but you can have a lot of fun and drive real. There's some really, really, and you know this, some really fast guys at, like, say, Kalgoorlie that are in what most people would call, I hate the word entry level, but, older material.
Oh, well, it all comes down to dollars,
It does.
like when you go to Alice Springs and you talk to the guys that have been racing there forever, they're like, well, we don't have an ocean.
Yep.
So we don't have fishing boats.
Yep.
We got a race car, man.
Yep. Yeah. And we spend time with it.
Yeah. And that's what they do. And, that's what I've loved about the CQ thing. All of us grew up and we had, we had bikes, and then we got a bit older. And we had
Bill, some of us didn't grow up, mate.
Well,
I'm trying not to.
Exhibit A. Yeah. But we had a tight group, and we've had our 4Bs, and it's just such a good group of people doing silly stuff. We're not going to get old anytime soon, and it's a community thing, I reckon. Yeah.
Definitely. And long-term friends, like, as I said, like Hughesy and Tamworth guys, like, we try and catch up usually, like, one way or another once a year, whether it be Fraser or something like that. We've got some Fraser stories, man. Anyway, like our last Cape trip, for instance, was with those guys and the local guys, and rumor has it actually rumor has it fucking parked against the side of that sign.
Rumor has it.
Rumor has it.
Yeah, I love it.
Against the side of the most northernest sign, which that rumor, I don't know, could be true. I don't know. But anyway, and then
I heard there was a chopper involved.
No. Chopper. What? And then Tassie, like, we did Tassie a couple of years ago, great crew. Like, we had, I think, 10 or 12 cars or something down there, and it's just so good. Like, every day was just awesome, And actually interesting that, we got three shorties were on that trip. That was mine as a twin turbo 4.5. And then we had Sam O'Keefe with a stroke 48 turbo. Then we had
who just did, I know it didn't go the way he wanted, but had just done Cliffhanger, drove there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the Ultra 4. What was that?
Oh, it's not called Cliffhanger anymore.
No,
Is it called? I know what you're talking about.
Anyway.
But that style of a long course event.
Yeah. And
it's the new Outback Challenge, isn't it?
Pretty much. It looks an awesome event.
Yep.
The poor guy's got a bit unlucky and in a golfing a heap of water, which done the engine in and turbo and so on. But
they do hate that.
Yeah. And then where was I going with this? And then
talking about
Tassie. And then John Pratchett, like, with his shorty.
Pratchett,
mate. I see the same camaraderie with these big horsepower cars around Rocky at the moment.
Mm.
You got buddy, got Cornick and
Hoggy
and like what they're doing at the moment is next level. It's
I didn't realize what's interesting, and you said it is, and is it's interesting because I didn't realize. I reckon that, like, Ben Dobinson and a number of these guys in the WTC crew and all that, like, as in Raw, they deserve a big pat on the back, because I didn't realize, like, when you started talking, I went, these companies, like, Stockers with Lockers, they give you Rocky Nats, they give you a reason to come to Rockhampton and catch up. Yeah. So you come to Rocky Nats, and normally you wouldn't take a full drive to Rocky. You might if you're.
And look, people have got to give, Dave Casey's, put together
massive rap.
A massive rap for that Rocky Nats, especially on the 4B side.
Definitely.
And then you've got Benny Dobbo who fall in behind that the drag stuff they do down in Araby.
But I guess what I'm saying is, like, Jeffro Charles would never come over if there wasn't. He may, but I'm saying it gives him it gives him a reason to come over, and all of a sudden you're at fiveys. You know what I mean?
Or Fraser.
And Fraser.
Yeah. Well, it's the stories. Like,
it is.
Like, even I can guarantee. If you get Corey, like the when we first started going to the States, like, just the camaraderie and the stories and the, like, it just goes from one thing to another, and you just I've always had a saying, like, people say, I remember back when we used to do this, and it's like, well, you should have seen what we did last weekend.
Yeah, still doing it.
Still doing it.
I agree.
And you also got Libby. She's running the Low Mead Challenge.
It's brilliant what they're doing,
and she's, like, keeping that whole thing going.
Yep. That's actually, give a big shout out there. That's next weekend. So if you're in the area, Low Mead, and so it's sort of like near Miriam Vale, south of Miriam Vale, and it's a brilliant event. Like, if you've never been there, they put on there's even vendors, so you can buy yourself a hot dog and a donut and an ice cream at Saturday night.
Done.
Now it'll sound like a real pitch, but You're going to live stream it. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, really?
So we're actually going to throw it on the live stream and
Awesome.
everything next Friday and Saturday night. So if you're wanting some 4-wheel drive, and it's a 3-car event, which is a real novelty, I guess. Like I know it's been happening a while, but like down south, it's not such a thing. But
remember the 3-car we used to have at Sione? That was some fun stuff.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah.
That was pre-social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we used to run at a team called Wenches with Winches because we had trying to keep the that competition entry level, and because we had a lot of experience and reasonable cars at the time, so we used to run and female navvies that often hadn't done anything to do with that sort of stuff, and it's so great to watch the teamwork. Like, I don't know about girls, but they can sometimes get together and work as a team. They might not be as quick as the experienced guys, but they nailed it. There's no arguments.
I feel a 3-car takes a little bit of the just outright pace out of it. It's more that teamwork, don't you reckon?
100%.
And I love it. I love those events. I think that it's so good. It's, again, you can have one standout guy. Like, we remember the old 5 cars down at Black Duck Valley back in the,
Loose nuts and bolts.
That's what it was
That's
called.
what it was, yes.
Yeah, back with the CQ off-road days. But it was so interesting because it made...
It's so much harder than one car.
It is way harder because you don't realize how hard it is to get all 5 cars through fast. It's very easy to get 1 car through fast.
Yep.
It's not too bad to get 2 cars through, but getting 5 cars through fast and working as a team is unbelievably hard.
Well, particularly when they did stages like where they rolled the dice and one of the cars, whatever car number that was a dead vehicle.
Had to get
towed all the way through.
Yeah. So there was no planning, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Remember Phil Benson on that turfer? Oh, bro, it was. That's right. Oh man, there's some wild stuff. It was 3-car that he lost the steering wheel, wasn't it?
Yeah, in Roundy Shorty, where the power steering pump failed and the big fella just manhandled it and stripped the thread.
No spline could cope with his arms.
That's true.
He overtalked it.
But no, it was definitely it was a great era in off-roading, and I mean, don't get me wrong, we're in a great era right now. Man,
absolutely.
Are you on the social media stuff?
Vague,
obviously not.
Do you know you've got a Facebook?
You've got a Facebook?
I have looked at it.
Okay.
I'm not really. I should get onto it a lot.
I know it's hard, but like, if you use it for what it's meant for, like some of the builds on Instagram and all that sort of stuff is pretty impressive.
Sweet 79s.
Well, there is, and even that barra powered. It? Whatever it is. Yeah.
Blue.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Again, the comments section will blaze up here that we don't know what his name is, but I know what the car I'm talking about. Like, these
1,000 horsepower barra
powered coil over. Like there's some really amazing stuff, and I think what's cool about it is if it's used right, and you're in this boat, is that if you look at it and then go, wow, like I can mimic that. I can build that in my shed. I can build that plate with a grinder.
Yeah.
I can buy these parts from down south. I don't necessarily have to, pay a fabricator to build this for me. And I think that's kind of cool because often, I don't know what you guys are like, but me, it's often when I see it that I go, oh, why didn't I think of that? Like that's a logical progression. Like I can put my bump cans in there. I can do this. Heck, it's not that hard. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you've got the right sort of motivation and the right sort of thought processing, like I feel that it's a fantastic tool that you go, wow, look at that. And
actually, I think I bought my front bump stops off you guys first up back in the day.
Also a set of rods too.
Where there might have been.
So rods for the 4.2.
Yeah, I spat them. I left one of them out at Fire Rocks.
Yeah. They were 15 years old.
Yeah, no.
He came looking for warranty too.
Hey, have you got that receipt, mate? No.
Yeah, bring it back.
Yeah, but amazing. I really do feel that like back in those days, again, that was what we're talking about. You had to have speed catalogs. You had to ring people. You had to ring the states at the right hours of the night. Nowadays you can have a fairly good look around YouTube, Instagram. There's a lot of information.
Someone local.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Even down to like welding, Russ. Like, back in the day, you used to just sort of have a tinker around and try to get it as good as you can. Nowadays, there's all these tutorials on, heck, Josh broke our caravan the other day, and there's a YouTube tutorial on how to fix it. How good is that?
What about Harley wallets? And
actually, how did you break the caravan?
Mobile crib room. We broke it.
Oh, really?
It's not a setup. It just won't wind up anymore. In one corner.
He's used it once. He's used it
so
once.
eventually when you tow, it'll have clearance. It'll be fine.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
That's Mason's. That's how he do it. He goes, just tow it faster. It'll open.
Yeah. I towed it as
It'll
fast
fit.
as the 200 will let me.
Oh,
So,
yeah. No, but like again, that sort of information was not available in 2000. So I think whilst some things on social media, again, I'll get on my little bit of a phone stand here. It was some things on social media need to stop. Like you need to not put stuff on social media that is blatantly wrong. Let's be honest. But
hashtag Mexico.
Well, whatever the case, I'm just merely saying that it doesn't look good for our sport if we're doing crazy things on Instagram. But the flip side of that is there's so many fantastic bits of information on YouTube and Instagram and all these other things that it really is an asset to. I mean, you look at we basically learnt to TIG weld, bought a TIG welder, and like just mucked around and watch welding tips and tricks and find you get on here and you have a good crack at it. It gives you a good bit of information. And
absolutely.
Again, when you were building turbo EHs back in 1922,
that's how I learned how to MIG. Because I pulled that manifold as a 10-port manifold, I think, and then I carved one top of it, and I sort of MIG weld up a divider all the way to suit the 12-port. Then I capped that, and it had leaks, but it worked.
No, that's
pretty cool.
But that's I think what it is.
So Russ's car is that much of a conundrum. We haven't even talked about your latest twin turbo setup.
Oh yeah, it's been a bit of an adventure, hasn't it?
So
really?
yeah, it has. It has. So what are we up to now? So in that old sweetheart.
Well, look,
what's
the
left
twin.
of it?
Yeah, look, it's really busy under the engine bay now. So what I've done, I made a sequential turbo system. So I run 2 GT30s. I tried 35s, my old 35s. I rebuilt out of parts, and the poor engine couldn't bring that on with the torque converter I had at the time. So I made a manifold that was basically 3-into-1, 2 of those that supported the turbos. The rear turbo, I manufactured a valve, like half a ball valve, and then I had a balance tube in between which shared a 60mm gate. And the idea was that
hold on. When you say a ball valve,
I made one. Yeah,
you made it, so you machined it up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Love the way he says, of course.
So in twin turbo, world, and look, I'm a cowboy, right?
Yes.
So some of them blow through a big turbo. Or
yes.
What do they do?
Compounding.
Compounding.
Yeah.
Yep. But this one actually diverts. It doesn't. It diverts one to the other.
Yeah. So I can start off with one single turbo, all 6 ports to one, and then I can
exhaust ports, all 6 feed one smaller turbo or just one turbo?
One of the 2 turbos. Yep. So hence spool up. Then I can introduce the second turbo.
Love it.
Or I can start off with 2 turbos and leave 2 turbos. So touring around as cruising and like quick acceleration, like just like trying to get up lumps or whatever else, I can just run the 1 turbo. It's a super responsive. And then I can keep going with this now, but
that's the idea.
We've got time.
Yeah.
We've got time.
Right, 5 hours later. Right, yeah. So I've been doing my own autos, and I did my first torque converter only recently. So I machined it up, I pulled it apart. I've done a heap of Sprague clutches, which is inside the turbo. So they've got a stator. They can only to work effective must spin only one way, not the other. And there's a Sprague bearing that sort of that sorts that out. With the J6, the Sprague bearing and these torque converters, they fail. My last Cape trip on the way back from Tassie, it failed. And what that does, you can still drive, but you lose all your bottom end. You lose all your torque multiplication off the mark. So I decided to pull it apart, solve this problem, made a heap of tooling up to work out my stall. So I made tooling up to bend on my turbine fins and so on. And I got a Ford. I learned about these mechanical diodes. It's like a ratchet of a kickstart of a motorbike, pretty much. They use in drag racing, which is like a mechanical ratchet. So I incorporated that into my torque converter and everything around it, a lot of guesswork. But glued this thing together and made a heap of tooling up my lathe. And man, this thing is fantastic. I can start off on 2 turbos now. It's just solved so many issues, and it's still going strong.
Can you tell me at what occasion you needed to? Do you need 2 turbos off the starting off, like drag race,
drag racing or anywhere? As soon as you hit sand,
Yeah.
Now I can hit sand and run 2 turbos the whole time.
Yeah, right.
And you've got a great torque curve.
So these diodes,
so much fun.
Are they controlled by a computer of some sort?
No. This is a mechanical diode.
Okay, so they just do it on their own.
They call it mechanical diode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Understand. No, I was just trying to
ratchet,
clarify.
Yeah.
So basically, it's all mechanical the way the converter works.
So So the inner, this is just for the stator.
Yep.
Yeah. So everything else is just a black art pretty much. So This is why torque converters cost so much, because man, these guys that build these things, like I understand the power and what's happened previously and pulling other torque converters apart. I've got to understand what the experts have done prior to. So I've got a bit of a head start, with turbo and fin angles and whatever else. But anyway, so that worked, fluked it. I mean, I'm sure it's got improvements, but at the moment it's way better than what I had. And I've got my auto out again. I left third gear up at Fire Rocks again. And so I'm running huge line pressures. So I've worked out the seal limits on the overrun clutch. So I've machined it. I've actually bored the clutch casing out so I can run a bigger piston, and that puts more ply. And then I change the stroke so I can actually put another clutch in that. And I've got all these.
These are all off-the-shelf parts that you've just modified to suit an RE4.
No, these are all standard parts. No.
Yes, standard parts that are upgraded though.
I've upgraded standard parts. Yeah.
Yep.
And then
I guess what I was saying is the clutch pack that you've added out of an RE4, or is it out of something else?
There's not much. No, RE4 stuff. Yes. So standard sort of build stuff. But it's not that much of
added clutch pack.
Yeah. So it gives you another friction material.
Yep.
Which is again added to what I've already got, which is way over standard.
Yep.
And then I've got capillary ports going from the outer casing to pick up ports that you can't assess line pressures to, like the low reverse. But on the later casings, you can't test that. So I've got all these transducers now around the auto, so I can actually monitor every gear while I'm driving what line pressure is going to actually at the clutch. So that's coming together now. And I modified also my line pressure, so I can actually alter the line pressure externally. I've got to test this. This has just come about last weekend.
I love this.
So that I can actually control the oil pump control spool valve assembly externally. But sounds easy, but it's a bit tricky.
No, it didn't sound easy at all. No. Didn't sound easy at all, mate. Just quietly.
Hey, I'm over here fixing fences.
Kicking dogs.
I might have some fence wire in there, actually.
I love it.
I'm not surprised. I still remember
the lightweight fence wire, but
no, the poly BSB fitting on the must have been I reckon it would have been around the winch challenge WTC stuff where you had the poly fitting in your turbo line.
Oh, that was
like the 90, the poly.
No, that was my tapper cover breather.
Yeah,
so I put it in the filler. Yeah, that's changed a lot.
The film.
So
yeah, the Filmac fitting.
Yeah, that was to eliminate crank pressure. Yeah,
I love it. So you talked about being able to control your 6-cylinder, your single turbo, and then is that how's that actuated?
Manually.
Yep.
So I've got a switch.
So you got to hold on to the steering wheel.
No. I got a momentary switch on the steering wheel. Plus I got a press in like on or off, and it'll operate off air, and but I'm going to upgrade my ECU because let's face it, I bought it back in 99.
Still the original electronic.
Yeah, so I got no outputs at all left. So I'm going to upgrade that. And well, that's a long story. So actually, Rocky Nats brought that around because, long story short, I saw the competition I was up against the week prior to the actual event. I went, oh, this is getting,
and it's stout. There's some stout competition.
There's some pretty cool. And Paulson was one of them. So a mate of mine was in his car and they're doing these bloody skids, man. I'm going, holy shit, that's pulling some serious skids, and it come off a hub dyno doing 780 horsepower, whatever it was. I'm going, and it turns out I'm in the same time slot at the drags. This guy, and I go, I'm just going to get eaten alive here. So I've heard about this E85 stuff. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to just do something a bit last minute. So drains me. I haven't got a flex fuel ability on my ECU or whatever else. So I drained the fuel, and
what wasn't a thing in 99?
No, apparently not. I just don't think you had these guys. Anyway, so I thought I had pretty big injectors at 1250 cc's, but apparently not enough. So I had to change, obviously rail pressures, and did a quick tune on the street prior. And I think
sorry, mate, just to give our listeners a bit of info. So explain the E85 thing, because it's about 30% more you need.
Fuel. I'm running
in fuel.
I'm running almost 37, almost 40% more fuel rate. This is not on a dyno. This is like pretty safe figures here, but I can guarantee.
So that's why the injectors needed to be upgraded from normal unleaded or premium unleaded.
Yeah.
And then the advantage there is the octane rating. And it's ethanol and it burns cool.
Yeah, basically cool burning, and
which turbo cars love.
You must I must have gained 20% more horsepower
There you
straight off
go.
the mark.
Yep.
It was so noticeable, and it brought up a lot of other issues too, because it spills your turbos up a lot earlier too. So I had a lot of turbo control all of a sudden issues. So I had to replumb my wastegate.
Couldn't press the button on the steering wheel fast enough.
Just boost spike and all sorts of stuff was going around. I go, holy crap, this is great.
Couldn't get the mouthpiece in right.
Yeah. No, that's interesting, because that was just someone going from unleaded build to a E85. Yeah. It's interesting to see the difference, because there is a lot of E85 cars out there now, but it's not probably, we're still not at the, a lot of Americans run the flex fuel and that sort of thing in a lot of their comp cars. But again, there is big advantages for a turbo car going on to E85 and NA cars.
So Russ, like, because, fuel's obviously a big thing now. So what do you, like, for your, running around the streets and doing, the drags and doing a bit of racing every now. What fuel are you running in your car?
I normally run 98.
Yep.
And
like BP
98. Yep. Well, yeah. And but like Fraser, for instance, if I run low boost, I can run on kerosene pretty much. Like the Cape, for instance, I was just detuning on the way then. And as soon as I got the cans back to full tune.
Copy.
But yeah, I intend to get that flex fuel ability for sure. I mean, there's 1.5 Bowsers in Rocky that sell it.
That's exactly
at any one point in time. So it's hard to get here, unfortunately. But
look, the ethanol fuel has its own issues too with
corrosion and everything else.
We learnt that the hard way with the race car. Like, we went from running 98 and, because we all, look, everyone says you spend a heap of money on your race car, but we always ran, 98 in our race car for a long time.
Yeah.
And then everyone said, you need to get a race fuel. We got a race fuel, and I won't say the name, but it literally wrecked like the fuel bladder within 12 months, every fuel line, fuel.
Some of them are very harsh on foam and stuff.
It was terrible. Yeah. It was terrible. And then you got to the point, if you're only doing 4 races a year, you couldn't trust anything that was old in your car. Like,
you just got to flush it to park it.
Yeah. So for us, like, and we go to race and have an issue. Well, we've got all this fuel, and then, so we went back to the 98 and like Kenny from KRE. That's why I really like Kenny, is because he's a real time guy. Like, he said, well, 98's, we can take you to race fuel and do that. Or we can run, 98 and you'll just be a bit back, run the timing back a little bit and be a bit more reliable. But we are on a VP fuel now that we're pretty happy with, and everything's sort of staying together. And so, we run a VP fuel.
An interesting thing when I've gone back to 98, I had a jerry can of E85, right? And because I had to obviously left over from that rally. But what I found, because when I hit the sand, I always run just an octane booster and just keep everything safe, because I run my advance sort of right on the edge of 98 to get maximum out of it, right? And so I thought I'll just divvy up. I'll just see what 5% E85 does as a mix. Threw that in, and mate, that thing is so much better than any octane booster, and at a much more cost-effective way of going around it, 100%. And I could probably go down to, say, maybe 2%. I don't know. I haven't experimented enough, but keep that in mind, guys.
Well, actually, it was, we don't get to talk to Kenny all that often, but when we do, we talk for a bloody long time. And he said, like, with COVID and with all this local stuff, like, your octane boost actually isn't the same octane boost. I might have yeah. But so your octane boost isn't actually the same octane boost. What was the mixture for your octane boost out of Autobahn? It's compromised now, so it's not the same stuff. So that's why we went from the 98 in octane boost back to a race fuel, because even in our performance Chev stuff, you can't get bits.
Well, E85 varies a lot too.
Yeah,
at the Bowser, it can be from guys that run flex and have that feedback. On the ECUs, but they can be down to 72, E72. But the problem is the density changes and the injection rate and your air fuel ratios change so dramatically,
Yeah.
So,
and like we flip the switch and we go to the States, like some parts of the US, we can go to a service station that's a VP service station. You can buy race fuel out of the Bowser.
How cool is that?
And put that sucker in there, and that's like running avgas in that sucker.
Yeah, you can buy full race fuel at Parker, can't you? Just out of the servo there.
100%.
Yeah, pretty cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So and especially when you can't get bits, because over here now at the moment, like we've gone from 6 liters to 7 liters, and we're all thinking about working out how we're going to make all this work.
Yeah, Bill. Change it. No. I'm kidding.
No, not Kent Battle. You're talking to here. Harsh. But yeah, you know, the thing is that we can't get the bits. So if you're not running a safe fuel, you need to put a safe fuel in so that you know, because the parts are worth saving.
Yep.
I thought there might have been a fuel control, to be honest. In
Oh, there
racing.
is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 100% there is.
There is.
Oh.
We've had a few talks, Mason. The last conversation with JC, I'll throw it out there in front of you guys, but we're blown away, and I like it. I don't suggest that we change. I really don't, but it's going to sound like it. I'm suggesting all the time. There is absolutely no testing in off-road, and as far as I'm concerned.
Got a email during the week, or from the Loose Cannon Motorsport boys with the Jimco. They have actually been tested.
There
so they had to pull. I'll put some photos up on Instagram, but they had to quite crude, but they had to pull the push rods out. Yep, I think they had to drop the push rods.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then crank it over, and essentially it was a tube that connected into your spark plug.
And that was done at Fink?
No, it was
a race.
It was done at a race. Yep.
There you
They
go.
even had a photo of. He sent me through a photo of the tube as well, and it measures the volume that your motor pumps out, and then from there they obviously multiply it by 6 or 8 or 4 or whatever, and then actually I didn't know this as well, but you can get your motor cams tagged as well. So you can actually give it to cams, get them to test it, or get them to come and test it when it's being built, and then they'll tag it, and it's got to be tagged. It remains tagged until you get it rebuilt.
Yeah, because obviously you got to cut the tag to pull the sump off it.
Yes.
Yep. Much like what they did with Turnkey over in America. And
that's Class 10.
Yep. Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. Because we have this conversation. I don't, Bill, do you, because you raced more than we did. Did you ever see anyone actually get tested?
Where in US or here?
Here. Fuel or motor size?
No, because any issue with testing always comes back to someone's got to put up the money.
Yeah.
So if you want to check someone, you know, you've got to put your hand out and say, look, okay, I don't believe this guy's running. But to be honest, I'm going to guarantee all the top end guys would not do it.
Agreed.
Because it's just not worth it.
Too much more to lose.
We've talked about this, but I was just interested in the concept of like all the other guys.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of other guys there that it's, you know, again, I don't know how to say this, and I'm not suggesting it's right or wrong. It's not really an issue if you're running 12th, 13th, 14th, whatever, so be it. But it's just interesting because it'd be fascinating when you know that like in 10 years we never got tested.
Yeah.
You know, if you've never.
Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
You know, the top end guys are going to run, you know, they aren't going to run a single cubic inch over what it is.
Yep.
Just because of the pride thing.
Yep.
It's the same thing about us skidding around having fun. Like we just don't lie about it. Like it's just a unspoken rule. But you know, and the ones who are serious about it, like, because there could be a chance that it could be tested.
Yep.
You know, so
that's right. You listen, if it went south for you, you'd never really recover from it.
Would never recover.
And
it would be very bad.
And why would you do it? You know, but when you go to the States though, and you see like big mile races and like no one talks about cubic inch. No one. You know, and it's such a stupid way to govern any class. Because you know, over there you might build a twin turbo car or whatever you're going to do, but you got a 10 mile straight of bull dust up to your knees. Well, the race is going to kill it.
Yeah.
But over here, you know, and you know, I've been on, you know, a bunch of us have tried to talk about bringing US style standard racing over here, but really until we get races that are like those races, it doesn't really matter. So we're all out racing, we're all having fun.
Yeah, I agree.
So what's going to happen, and I'll tell you, this is what's going to happen is people are going, because we love racing, we're going to pick races that are good for races.
Yeah.
In 13, 14, 15, we had so much fun there, but we went to a lot of races that weren't a lot of fun. But we get there and you know, we've got to go to a town and then we got to drive an hour to the race for one day. Then we got to drive back to the town again. And the next morning got to be there by 6:30, you know, and we can't hang out. We can't have fun. So what you're going to see is you're going to see races support good racing, which is like Fink, you know, like Don River.
Yep. Gundy.
Yep. You know, and like Western Australia. So
yep. Kalgoorlie.
Yep. Like you're seeing the effort put in. And so everyone has fun when everyone's having fun.
Yep.
But when you see races, when you see people that are driven halfway across the country and there's no facility set up for them.
Yep.
You know, people are going to get sick of that stuff.
Yep. Well, it's interesting you say that because this takes us a long way back. But what I was just thinking when you're talking about that is, you know, yes, I understand how important the race is. I'm not suggesting it's not important, but you're saying about it's really important that event promoters realize that it's an event, because that's what, getting back to Land Cruise Mountain Park, just purely as a race, it may not have been the greatest thing ever, but the fact that you were there with your mates,
and
you had a huge weekend, like it was
Albert
the event.
Helen, you know, like you walk in there, they get you around a circle and say, hey, you're my boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Albin's speech for the hill drag was like, so who hasn't done the hill drag? It's like, well, you drive up the hill as fast as you can. If you hit the shit house, I'm going to kick you out.
You've gone too far.
I actually had to give him a bottle of scotch or something, I think, because I did do donuts, which created a lot of other donuts after an event. It was really good.
Mason.
Yeah.
Like some of the stories from Cruiser Park is, like they're some of the funnest things.
You go down there for maybe 60% is the racing, but the 40% is definitely the social.
Which feels like, when you think about it, that's what Fink is, like purely as a race. Listen, I love Fink, obviously, and I love Gundy, but you know, like it's the nights at the pub, it's the meeting with it's it's the hanging out, and I think that's what event promoters, if they really want to capture, Kalgoorlie sounded, unfortunately we didn't make it over, but you know, it's that event, it's the fact that you're there with the crew, the fact, you know what I think that's something that and you know, heck, let's take it away from off-road racing. Low mead. What's one of the greatest things about low mead? You're in the creek hanging out socially, you're watching the winter. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, like not that I'm telling promoters what to do, because I know how hard their job is. But you know what I mean? Like creating that event is so important, because if you build it, they will come, because you know, like the people there are half the reason that you go to race, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like Elbin and that era of Cruiser Park down there was just, you know, awesome fun.
It was very good.
And we've met, you know, friends of ours that we, you know, we talk to every day or every week or so. And you know, like even the barrel races. Hey, Russ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love the barrel races.
How come he said, hey, Russ? But no, that's exactly right. Like such a good events where you ended up meeting so many good people. And yeah, again, that event, like it's a real key element to off-road racing, I think, is bringing people into it, and the fact that you want to get involved because you want to be at these events, you know. It's not just racing, it's sort of the whole event. So yeah, I really love it. Josh, you really look like you're struggling over there, mate.
I am on struggle street. That's right. It doesn't matter. Keep going.
We got a lot of Bill.
What's that?
Just loving on Bill. You want me to zoom in on it?
No, it's all good. All good.
Anyway, the moral of the story is that, again, one, as an event promoter, keep doing what you're doing, because we love you guys. It is promoter is a loveless job. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone thinks they know how to do it better. No one realizes that it takes you 7.5 months before the event to get organized and all the other stuff. But so first off, we love you. Good work. Congratulations on being an awesome event promoter. But have a good think about the whole thing. Because again, believe it or not, the ice cream machine, the donuts, I'm listing a lot of food here, the lights, the 3-car, the people, like that's all part of it, isn't it?
What about these things?
Cans, most people, if you go to a 4-wheel drive event and don't take cans, honestly, who are you?
It's a backup plan. You have a breakdown. You almost look forward to a breakdown.
So has anyone heard any more about this race at St. George that's going to be, what, the 1,000K or?
Oh, I can give you a little bit of info about that. 900Ks, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So they're going to I don't know if it's set in stone yet, because I don't want to be that guy that makes big claims, but yeah, they're going to do it 900Ks essentially straight, and it's going to be very interesting, because I think it's a bit of an equalizer.
Right.
It comes from an idea that it's a New Zealand, you know, they used to do I think it was the Taupo 500.
Yeah, but they would have been talking miles, wouldn't they, in New Zealand?
Miles, possibly. So, you know, it's very much based off that long course type event, and they want cars to
a loop race, obviously.
Yes, it'll still be a loop. It is again, I hope I'm not on the wrong track here and talking rubbish, but it will be based off the course that they've got, but with changes. I do not believe, from my understanding, that it's going to be in the area that they did last year, because this year, the start of this year. And the reason behind that, they only moved this year to where it was due to the fact that they got very heavy rains in January, February, and that caused them that they couldn't use that normal dam area. So I believe that they're going to go either back to or to a new spot so that they're not out in that paddock. Not that there was anything wrong with the paddock, but it was dry and dusty, wasn't it, Josh? It wasn't, you know, it was literally a paddock with a, you know, and they did an awesome job working through what they had to do with, because it was 2 week before. Are we going to run this race? Are we going to cancel it? We're going to run it. You know the deal?
Well, I guess you know, like obvious us campaigners that have been doing, you know, we did the Coffs Harbours and we did the, you know, like the loop races that were really dusty. And you know, I've had it here in CQ. People say, why don't you run a race? You know, you've got a lot of, you know, you've got heaps of areas here to race, but you've got things like weather to think about. So I'm just wondering, like, you know, maybe I wonder, should we go down there and do some real time stuff? Because you know, I'm the biggest campaigner for a long distance race. That's really where I'm at. Like, I love that stuff.
Bill, after this, I have a phone number for you. Yeah. I know. I'll tell you a bit.
And actually, I've been meaning to contact the guys, because I think some you know, if you're going to do a circuit race over 300K, you need to start thinking about that last you know, 400 or 500K. And
agreed.
Whether that's going to work out to be complete toilet or it's going to work.
Yes, agreed.
You know, because if everyone's driving along in second gear, you know, like
play on bull dust,
it's not going to work out. You know, but
well, I believe that it seemed. Again, I don't want to speak for the committee because I'm not on the committee, but I believe that they're very open to help and that they want to make it a great event.
Well, that's what. And I'm not saying it from a downside. I'm sort of saying, like,
you want it to be great.
We need to make if someone's going to nut up and do it, I think we need to get down there. We'll get Russ down there with the Geordie and
run a few laps.
Run a few laps.
Heck yeah! But listen, because I think it's a great concept. I think it's Australia, and I love all Australian racing, just to clarify, but we have slipped into an era where, and it's been like this for quite a while, where Australian racing is sprint racing. Like, we're just balls to the wall. It is wide as you can go.
And that's cool too.
It is very cool. Very cool. But it's cool to see something different, is it? Guess what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be cool to see that longer course. It'd be cool to see. It'd be interesting to see how they go with it. Mate, well, again, Josh and I will end up, because we obviously commentated St. George. I believe that we're involved with it again, all things going well. And I'm looking forward to how it all goes, because,
it'd be great to see it as a success.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
So I think if we could get, like, at least some cars, or even some pre-runners, we'll run the Can-Ams down there.
Yep.
And actually sort of do the run, maybe start staggered, you know, to actually work out that this is going to work out, because no one's actually gone and done it. Like, you know, everyone wants to change Fink, but I actually don't think they should change Fink.
Yeah.
Because Fink's its own race.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's like a Bathurst of Australia. You know, everyone's put that much work into it to say, this is the prologue, this is the race.
Yeah, it's a proven combo. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
The only reason that I think that, from what I understand, is the only reason that there could be some changes is only due to separating bike times and car times and that sort of thing. Like, it's, you know, there's a lot going on now with the numbers, isn't there? Which I understand, because there's a lot of cars and there's a crap load of motorbikes racing now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that, other than that, I don't think they've got any interest in changing that race.
It's sort of refining what they know.
It is.
But you know, like, you know, the guys at St. George now are stepping up and saying, we're going to run a long distance race.
Yep.
I think it'd be a good idea to go there and just sort of check the theory before, or maybe we just, you know, like, it's like Don, like, you know, like,
you call Mason up and I'll give you a phone number and we'll all go down and have a look at this race course.
I've got a spare.
I reckon
me and Russ in the side by side.
Now we're talking.
Oi,
is he Navian? Because Josh took him for a ride. Have you ever heard this story? Josh took him for a ride in a Jimco, and there was a dint in the passenger's panel because this old mate pushed the brakes that hard. This guy is not a. Oh, I got another good story about Mason. He went wheeling. Do you remember Kenny Brown's place? And you got wheeling, and we were climbing up this rock. It was slow, real slow. He's like, "Oh, I'll get out and look at the line." No, Mason, it's all good. No. I'll get out and look at the line. You would not stay in the car with me, brother.
Yeah, I hate being passenger.
Not a passenger.
I got a great story I need to mention.
Oh, here we go.
It involves you, Billy. Remember COVID times when Toby Price did that record jump at Comiskey's place. So anyway, got this phone call midweek, come out, or whatever. And so end up through Zebra Wreckers and so on. End up with, I think we end up with 5 with Bowsy. God bless his soul. Always a great help, that guy, at Queensland Patrols. And end up with 5 CRVs. Like these guys, these Honda CRVs were prime. They got recalled because of airbags and it wasn't cost effective. So they got written off, right? So we just had to return these things as scrap. Now, I don't know how legal this story is. I don't know what the backdrop is. But anyway, this is what happened. So
in Mexico.
So Tuesday afternoon, I've ripped up to Zebra Wreckers to get one, and then I went back for another one, and then I think Toby Price had his trail, so he grabbed one, and Comiskey had a Pantex, so he managed to squeeze 2 in that. Anyway, I ended up with 5. Now we end up mucking around with these things, and it's like a motocross track on steroids for buggies, right? And that night, man, we were just like school kids in cars. Every one of these CRVs were full of us adults on the piss, racing around at night.
Not an adult to be found, to be honest.
Yeah. I think we drank ourselves to about 13 years old. Anyway, and I was so much fun, man. A lot of flat landing these poor things until it would trip over its own engine. And I remember I was in a passenger seat at this point, and Cornick was driving, and we're getting back to the last jump. I think the passenger airbag was still intact, right? And I was trying to video this thing on my phone. I don't do this normally, but next thing
for social media, Josh.
Yeah. Still got the video
at mason.com.
So I was videoing. Next thing, poof, and my phone just flipped out of my hand. The airbag went off, and it didn't touch my face or anything. But anyway, I had to look hard for my phone, man. This airbag just punched this phone out to the back of the wagon.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was a great night. He went till about 3 a.m, I think, to clean up.
Oh yeah, the Comiskey Christmas party. It's the real deal.
Well, it gets videoed every now and then. Not that side of it, but
it gets heavily censored.
Yes,
too,
absolutely.
Well, speaking of censored, if you want, I actually got a butt. So remember that guy? Who was the other guy that was there? He's the MotoGP rider.
Well,
Jack Miller was there.
Jack Miller was there, and I had no clue. I didn't know. I don't watch TV much, so someone I think might have said,
"Are you Russell Mason?
Are you the wheelman?"
Yeah. Look, honestly, I can speak for the boys that were there. And
hang on, Jack Miller was there, and this is like a really great lad, just one of the boys.
Yep.
And then someone said, "Oh, Russ, that's Jack Miller." I went, "No, what?" And he's Australian GP rider for Ducati and whatever else. I go, "What? Oh, radio, okay, yeah."
And can ride a dirt bike.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
and
it wasn't until the next day that a couple of mates of mine, I said, "Oh, I was at Comiskey's last night, whatever." And this Jack Miller guy, I met him, and Jack Miller, what? The Jack Miller? And I'm going, "Yeah, it's racist GP apparently or something." Holy fuck, what?
Oh.
Yeah, it's great.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
look, I can speak for the boys that were there. You know, just to go there and not have people, shoving microphones in their face.
Yeah.
And
except for that one guy with a camera phone. What was his name? Russell Mason.
Remember,
we all forgave you for that.
Well, actually, the amount of times I've met Toby Price, such a down to earth, good guy. I can't even bring myself to even getting an autograph because I just don't want to be one of those guys. It's like, fuck, he's just one of the lads, isn't he?
Yeah.
And his parents and everything else.
Toby, move. Hey, is that Billy Geddes?
Well, that's what I do. Yeah.
Remember Toby ended up deep in a berm and got bogged? We might have had no tyres left on the CRV. But
I was going to say, are we talking about motocross bike or CRVs now?
CRV.
This was
CRV
in a berm.
So Comiskey fired up the 28H grader, removed the berm, which is a big berm, with probably 2 wipes of the blade. Cornick was stuck in the skid steer, brand new skid steer. He was bogged. So he managed to claw the blade and got him out. And then the Franner turned up and they just hooked the CRV up. Well, I think with Toby still in it.
You still got that button?
Straight after doing the take 5, though.
You still got that button?
I wasn't ready. and you're just going to for the next 5 minutes of the
sounds like I'm hearing aid.
No, but you're absolutely right, mate. It's amazing. And it's fantastic. As you were saying, Bill, is that they get the opportunity to get away for a bit.
Yeah.
Get the, the business hat off. And because again, it's hard because you see these people out of work uniform, let's say, and mate, again, Toby, legend, Jack Miller, no doubt, legend.
Absolutely.
But when they're on business weekends like Fink, like she's a job, man. 10:30 at night, still standing in line signing an autograph. So I know what you mean. So it's fantastic that Comiskey and you guys give them the opportunity to get away and just be one of the boys for a bit. Hey, because I mean, we all know there's nothing better than being.
Well, they are one of the boys.
They are one of.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. But lots of times, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of that, Tobe's heading the States as we speak. He probably still on the plane right now, so heading over to do the 1,000 with Paulie Will.
Is this in a
Mason
new car now?
Yeah,
Mason.
they're in the Mason now. So,
well,
so
a new second hand, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So second hand Mason, prepped by Tisco.
4-wheel drive Mason.
Yeah, all drive. So yeah, they're out there to go do a bit of pre-running and get ready for the 1,000. And
so Russell Mason,
cool.
tell us a bit more about how you came up with these 4-wheel drive trophy trucks that you guys build.
Oh, look, it's just second nature, really.
Look, I don't have a real good run with all-wheel drive. I've had a bunch of goes. I even drove an Ultra 4 before Don, and I managed to break that. So I'm
because if you drove the RPM 4-wheel drive one, didn't you? Or,
no, I haven't. I drove the G6 over there. I drove the Tisco obviously for a while, which was a really good car. Went well. What
was it? The G6 that Robert just sent to the moon the other day?
Wow!
Holy moly!
That is going.
Have you seen that footage, Russ? There's.
Get it on your phone, DC.
I don't know if I can right now, but listen, if you're at home, and I'll show him after the podcast.
We got to work on this. We got to get like the screen up.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
Yeah.
Hey, Jamie, bring it up.
Yeah,
No,
James,
Josh.
Yeah.
Like the guy that
mate.
Billy raced.
So J Dub, who's a good friend of ours from been with Geyser forever, and they're in doing what race was
Laughlin, I think, wasn't it the road jump at Laughlin?
Yeah, Laughlin. So the road jump, and Robert loves this jump. Like he sends it every time, and so hits it about 100 mile an hour, and this one he hit at 118 miles an hour.
It's got to be the biggest jump off that road jump.
Yeah.
It's literally the biggest jump I've seen off the road jump.
Yep.
Really?
Period. And the worst thing is,
the Casa
should have been
pretty
involved.
much,
Should have been.
It was to the moon. And
SpaceX.
like it was a really windy weekend too, and that's what they all said. Like once it got up, it was a headwind, caught it, and it just floated.
Oh, she's nose up. It's just floated. It's wild, man.
And like
lands this way.
And like side loaded it and pulled it off. And everyone's like, oh,
I think he got it done because he never got off the gas. Like it was insane. It was one of the coolest
J Dub's like, yeah. That's great. That worked out. Let's never do that again.
Oh, that would have to.
I love these
covers out, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I love these trophy truck drivers. Did you happen to watch Concrete Motorsport have got that one up now? And Harley's leaving. You know how they go through the bitumen. Well, essentially, once they get out of town at the Baja 400, he just clicks fifth gear, holds it wide, does 141 mile an hour in a trophy truck, and then his navigator at the end. There's one last corner. He goes, "Hey, listen, Harley. I'd be cool if you lifted on this one." Because apparently there's a tight one right at the end before you get on the bitumen. He's like, I'd be kind of okay if you lifted on this one.
Man.
They're different, eh? They're next level, those guys.
I'm so proud of Robert. Like Robert's driving so good.
So well, mate.
He's so comfortable in that G6, man. He's sending that thing. Randy's prepping it good.
Yep.
And the guy's going great. Sarah's been running the old truck a little bit. So Sarah Price has been running that a little bit.
Because she's still been racing a fair bit in that EV Dakar. So she's doing a bit of that.
Yeah, so she's been doing.
This is Sarah Price. Do you know who we're talking about? She was a moto girl, raced some moto, and then she's raced side by side. She was actually over here racing the side by side Australian Championship.
Yeah, done a lot of side by side stuff. So she's in the old truck of Robert. So Robert's still got the two trucks, and you know some races. Sarah gets in and races the other truck, and she's pretty stout. Like she holds her own. But yeah, Robert and that G6, man, he's sending that thing.
It just works. Hey, it looks so good.
Qualifying well. He's consistent. You know, they ended up losing an underdrive at the Laughlin race. So
isn't that crazy? That's a thing too now. Like, isn't it crazy that as you step up, and I know you just talked about this with horsepower, like they move up, they fix that part. Like, you know, underdrives weren't really, I remember early on they were an issue and now they're not an issue, but now they're pushing them so hard that they're an issue again. Like, you know, like all the bits fell out of Harley's in that concrete truck, you know, the Terrible Herbs truck. And again, that's not Terrible Herbs. I mean, it's not that these parts aren't amazing. It's that they're putting 1,100 horsepower through them, you know, like it's just all so stressed and they're going through these whoops. And yeah, it's crazy to think that it's just an ever evolving game of this part, break this part, break this part again.
And
Keep
it-
going.
but
Oh, well,
a-
it all
it-
holds up. So
Hey,
now we need to put more
more
horsepower.
horsepower.
But it's the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
stuff that Russ
Never
is doing
back
with
off the
that.
horsepower.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's the same thing what Russ is doing with his gears box. Like,
Agreed.
to understand
Did you
what's
just call it
actually
a
broken.
giz box?
Well,
It is.
probably
It is a gears box.
Maybe.
That's a new terminology. I
Let's
like
not
it.
jizz box, but anyway.
Whoa.
I want it. Let me get to this.
This is that is the worst edit I've ever seen in my life.
It's close enough.
You caught it.
But that's where it all comes from. So
Yes.
being able to understand what you broke, why you broke it, and you probably should have lifted. You
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't even imagine the shock loading between front end and rear end drive or one corner. Like that's just all that traction just goes through one drive line to up the speed of the whole
Oh, it blows
complex of things. And
Yeah, not being a mechanic. like,
crazy.
so last year, Don, we broke the main shaft and the gearbox,
Mhm.
and so Steve went all the way from Don and Bowen up to Townsville, and Brinks fixed the gearbox. I had another spare gearbox there, so they made 1 out of 2. Come back, and we like by daylight that car was running, ready to go. Like it was a
That's cool.
big
And went
deal.
well.
And then Steve gives me the shaft, and I'm like, holy crap! It's like this round,
Yeah.
and it cops like 40-inch tires
Yeah.
and all the stuff. And I start really feeling sorry for what I've done to that gearbox.
Mate, auto
Did it-
is still
did it-
intriguing.
Did it slow you up this year, Bill? Did you
well,
lift once?
Well, we didn't win.
Went pretty good. It was all right.
Yeah, I heard you did really well, mate.
Yeah, no, the old truck went well, but
Yeah.
but that's the thing. Like you start looking at components and what punishment you put it through. But what I find interesting, not being a real mechanic, is actually how a part can survive due to loading getting shifted to somewhere else.
Mm.
Like planetaries, like obviously
like portals.
Yeah, like portals.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's all about, well, the good thing about fluid coupling, like an auto, it's just, I still can't understand how a crankshaft is so big, goes to an input shaft, as you say, so small, because there's no shock loading, there's no gearbox vibration as like a manual.
Yep.
It's a fluid coupling that
Yes.
saves, and the planetary gears just last forever, and it's just crazy.
Yeah,
It's
well,
just awesome.
Yeah, we've got a big move in. Well, most cars in Australia now have a Albin's gearbox with a converter, because you can get more power out of a smaller engine, and obviously you can keep it in the sweet spot, and everything works
The
well.
whole driveline would survive behind that a lot better.
But once we go like back in the US, when we're in the big truck and we're running the big block, it really kind of doesn't matter what you hook behind it, because it's just got that much torque.
Yep.
Whatever gear you just put the foot down, it's like a boat, man. It just goes.
But I think you're right about that fluid coupling. Like the first year we raced Fink in the Jimco, it was a clutch car. And 2 years later, we raced it again. And essentially, like suspension, motor, gearbox, everything was the same. And the only thing we changed was that it had a torque converter in it now. So still the same manual gearbox, just running a torque converter. And it was like a different car. Like the first year at Fink, you felt like you were just going to, like you said, the input shaft, you were just going to smash it to pieces. Like every whoop, it just felt like you were just like wanting to break this car in half and then go to a torque converter. And it was like a whole different car. Like how much smoother you felt you were on the driveline, on the motor, like everything like that. Even the suspension felt better.
It was a cool time in racing to see buggies go from where they were, full clutch cars, to see converters start coming into them. And, and then you start seeing the parts not breaking in the buggies anymore, and they start getting quicker and faster.
Could start pushing some horsepower into them.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the converter that year was different, eh? Like we were just talking about the
massively.
difference between a clutch and then having like that hard connection versus a fluid coupling. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And the longevity of all the parts. It was
It just
night
takes
and
that
day.
vibration, that shock, like that
for sure.
frequency.
And I
of it,
mean, you could, I know you've said this just before, but you can physically feel it
Yeah.
in the car.
Yeah,
When we were
yeah,
going
yeah.
through the whoops, it hurt with the clutch. Hurt.
I can feel it in my heart.
There was a few things
Really
wrong that
hurts.
year, just so we're clear. Yes, yes.
My heart's hurting.
My heart's hurt. No, we didn't get to that point. Well, I tell you what, we taught some trees a lesson that year. Hey, Josh.
The first year.
And the other year,
There's
Josh
plenty of-
loves teaching trees
There's
lessons.
plenty of footage of my car with ferns hanging underneath.
You know the thing I thought was the coolest with the car when it was a clutch was the power steering on the gearbox.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if that
Yeah.
was, I don't know if that was
That's
cool.
all.
Yeah.
I guess it was probably one of those things from racing in America. It was because obviously it was an American built car. Is you don't have a power steering pump hanging on the back of your motor, so then there's less chance of, I guess, if you drop a belt, you don't lose power steering, or also there's less chance of knocking it off with a big rock or something like that.
But if you
but
push
also-
the
But
clutch
if you
in-
put the clutch in, you had no power steering. Yeah.
It was
But
unique.
The thing is also you don't get, it's not going to one less thing that spin up with RPM or quick rev.
Yes.
Too, because one less centrifugal.
Yes.
Flywheel effect, I guess as well.
Yep.
There's a lot of race car I guess track cars run the alternator off the back diff.
Yes.
Because they just need to start the car the next round, and run the gear.
Well, they quite often run your spare alternator off your tail shaft in the trucks. So yeah,
what a life.
Oh yeah, in the rocks. Yeah, it's just like I hate you so much.
It's crazy stuff for sure. Like, yeah, and it's interesting because it's such an interesting game because what we're talking about is all this American stuff and how different, whilst it's very much the same. Like, we don't carry spare drive shafts. We don't carry spare, like you don't carry any of that gear, do you, Bill?
Oh, not here. No.
I know Dave Fellows carries a spare CV and axle and
just found that bad boy in the bush.
Some teams carry that sort of stuff in their helicopter. I mean, their car.
Yeah, look, we are actually putting more weight back in our truck. Like we went for a period when our trucks were built, Bose and mine.
I can see you're out of condition, Billy. That's what the
6 weeks in a chair will do that for you. But yeah, we are looking for more traction. So even as much as we bang on about needing more motor and stuff like that, like if we can't get it on the ground, and sometimes it's just weight on the ground. So yeah, we're going to two tires in the back of the truck.
Is the importance there consistent weight, or just weight in general?
Well, it's just watching the new age trucks. It's just watching the new age trucks and where they're putting their power delivery and like even the 2-wheel drive trucks from year to year, you see little improvements, big improvements, and so for us, if you're frying the wheels off it, there's no point pushing your foot down any harder.
Yep.
You've got to get the things to hook up. So yeah, because we're and I'll always probably stick to 2-wheel drive just because of the budget side of things.
Yep.
I'd love to see a 4-wheel drive hang together, but for the one I can buy, I'm pretty sure it ain't going to hang together.
It's got Can-Am CVs in the front of it. I hear you though, mate. I hear you.
Yeah. So I'm a 2-wheel drive guy. But I think there's big improvements, still to had for our car, and even if we don't keep this going, we get the next one. It's more about traction, and obviously having a shock guy or a shock company that can get that to work. I look at a lot of my old videos when we go through bumps and the wheels are off the ground, and it still looked good and it went okay, but you start getting critical of where your tires on the ground and if it's actually doing something.
Yep.
So yeah.
With only traction like rear end or on dirt, like the aerodynamics just mustn't be helping you guys.
Oh, terrible. Trucks are like
you're pushing an overgrown GQ down a fucking
60
mile an hour dirt track.
Bo and I, look, we spent years pulling panels off, driving them just the chassis, and they're quicker without the panels.
Yeah,
they don't look as cool.
So they're quicker as a buggy.
Speaking of buggies, when's it coming
out? Here we go.
Look, enough noise.
I've got to say though, for Aussie racing and being at Don and seeing like Havey's car up there, like those element cars are working.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
And there's number. Yep.
Yeah. And like it depends on what you want to do, but I kind of like running my old truck.
Yeah.
It's been around. It's got a bit of character. It's done some dumb things, and like
the driver hasn't, but the car has.
Yeah. I've done a lot of dumb things, but yeah, we rock up there, and we have a good time. We got a good crew. Everyone gets along, and that's part of it. And if you do well at the race, well, that's even better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I look at it. Don't ever go out to win.
No.
If you do that, you're just going to.
But I still don't want you to beat.
Said from the two most competitive men I've ever met.
But you just look at how it is. You just do what you do.
No, I do know what you. Yeah. Again, all about the event. The races 100%. Are secondary. The event is amazing. Like,
if you break down, there's always a backup plan. You always make sure that fridge is packed.
Beers. Yep, exactly right. Yep. So if the option ever arose, would you jump in an Abbey for, say, a Fink or a Don River or something like that to experience off-road racing? Yep, even as a Navvy? Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
If I'm good enough. I actually never isn't that Polaris, but, man, when I landed in Alice Springs and I, for the first time, checked out the track and I looked at the wheelbase of the Polaris, I went, this is not going to be cool. This is going to be painful. And it was. Yeah. But I had a ball.
Yeah,
I had an absolute ball. And Ian has raced that 3 times, got a memory like an elephant. I did not have to navigate. I was already looking for the trophy trucks they got going again.
Yes.
Make sure we weren't a landing target.
That's a hectic thing, eh? Like, like if you see a fast car pulled up and you're like, shit, well, he's coming.
Please don't get going again.
Mate, we were doing so well. Like he can drive this. In Hughes, he can fucking drive, man. And
well, he was actually just a background it from Tamworth. He was the side-by-side Australian champion one year.
I wouldn't surprise.
Yeah. So if he wasn't first, he was second. Like he was right there.
Mate, he's one of the guys that I am comfortable sitting in because but we did
Say
3
that again.
belts.
What did you just say?
I know, right? But
Not comfortable sitting in with.
No, but we did 3 belts going out.
Yes.
I think. But then realised that the air intake had fallen from the top of the roof onto the turbo housing.
Yes. Again, that
it
was
might have overheated.
It's hard. Hey, that was definitely a side-by-side thing back in the day.
Yeah.
But it's changed a lot, and it's very it'd be interesting. And he is a good guy. He'd be another one, man. How cool would it be to see Ian Hughes in a pro buggy or trophy truck?
He's a family man now.
I understand. There's a lot of family men around, but I'm just saying, like, he's another one that can, as you said, neat steerer.
Yeah, well, he's actually got a Rangy with an LS in it. Then he bought a rotary, an old RX-7.
Cool.
Took me for a spin recently around Tamworth, and holy shit, the power to weight ratio, like you turbo this thing, it's insane. Those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, they are a very cool thing. Like, and I tell you what, the other thing is, old car market, Mason, don't be throwing that EH away anytime soon.
Nah,
holy moly,
man! I've got plans to get that thing out of the shed and start modern. I might put the ECU out of my patrol now, like very soon into it. So at least I got some 3D sort of ignition
spare
control.
outputs of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Keep it really basic and half old school, like the old engine and stuff like that. Not modernise it too much. I bought an old Volvo, so I'm gonna, because they run early halt and stud patterns, so I increase it. Obviously diff capacity and braking capacity and stuff like that. But and then I might update the ECU on the patrol before rocking out safely, and I can start.
Love it.
We're going to swing some
super non-competitive. Right here.
Someone somewhere called me out.
Hey, they got a grass event now. Have they? Like
at Rocky Nats?
Yeah, like they did it at Summer House.
You've got them, Ross.
It's like a carnicross type thing. I'm pretty sure.
Well, they used to do spear spud, and they used to do all of those things. Yeah. Oh, yes, it would be.
And also skid lane or something. That's when they can actually pull a skid at walking speed. I don't know how it works, but fucking always keen.
Yeah, always keen. Well, I'll tell you what, the other thing that I heard, Mason, is that, like, again, getting back to, these events and stuff, is that it's all about catching up with you know what I reckon in the comments, Josh, I reckon that people should get into it and we should organize a weekend somewhere in CQ. Jeffro could come over.
Oh, Jeff.
Just
have you got any Rangers left?
That's a slightly uncalled for.
Has Corey Howe got any cars left?
Oh, he would definitely. Well, speaking of Jeffro,
let's go to a Bucks party and take our good cars so we don't be dumb.
Yeah.
How'd that work out, guys?
Work doesn't know this about that.
Whoa. No, but we should organise a weekend away, boys. We should do something. I reckon we'll line it up sooner rather than later.
Well, actually, Ado from Blake's World, he's keen.
Really?
Get him up here and take him for a bit of an excursion.
Heck yeah, now we're talking. I like it. Should get a crew together and go up to Fivies or something like that. Yeah. Only on 9 Mile, only to camp.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what we do.
Yeah, so great to have Ado and the boys from Blake's World up there at Dawn. They really made the weekend, really. Just hanging out and
absolutely.
Yeah.
And awesome footage, awesome coverage.
Oh, how good was it?
Yeah, so good.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Was brilliant.
We should have it at Fraser, like at Eli Creek.
Lock that in then.
Because
I'd go to Fraser.
And there's some great times there. Like, I don't know about, well, we try and get there every year, but I've got to buy another Croc actually, because
like the shoes?
I was going to say Crocs.
No. So
what, to make up a pair? Or?
No. Okay. The story goes back.
I found one Croc.
Is John Lever listening in right now? No.
We had a great crowd up at the last Cape trip. That's where this rumor came about, that sign. Anyway, that trip, I took a photo of the Croc sign. Had like in Japanese, whatever. Do not, beware of Crocs, whatever. So laminated in the Eli Creek. I don't know whether you know. You got that decking that goes right up, and as you go down the stairs to cruise down the creek, we stapled this Croc sign up. Then I had this urethane, fairly realistic looking Croc, and 30 meters down.
Where do you find one of these things?
I know a guy.
So it wasn't like a blow up. This thing looked half reel, right?
Yep.
So planted about 30 meters down the creek with 50-pound line underwater. We're under the bridge on the piss. And as soon as
hooked to his winch, pulling in at 26 to 1.
So anyway, as soon as, obviously some customers cruised on in and, the busload turned up and whatever, we just pick our targets and just start reeling this croc in, man. It never grew old.
These poor Germans are like
funny.
dying. And there's all these Spanish and stuff.
Talking about accents, like we end up a whole bridge that had been done that didn't tell anyone else, and they'd be screaming croc and all sorts of accents, and there's poor people just absolutely freaking, and
because they knew what was going on by this stage.
Oh yeah, they were onto
gotcha,
it. Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
They're feeding it.
It was so good.
So
we'll have to get
again,
one of those.
only Mason, king of the kids, king of the kids. I love it. So good. But no, mate. Listen. Again, put it in the comments. Start letting us know, where do you reckon we should have a bit of a catch up, and we might see if we can get these two likely young lads down for a run. And
well, I think Fraser's probably fairly central to a lot of good guys down south.
Absolutely,
come up to this.
It's a couple of good spots. King Coona's a good spot too. Plenty of camping down there. You've done King Coona?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, or south. There's a method meet up in a couple of weeks at. Come on, this Rainbow Beach, Twin Heads.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. So they're going down there. So that'll be a pretty
weekend
big weekend
after low mead.
After low mead, yes.
Oh, it's a bit soon. But...
Yeah, a bit soon. But
so, what's happening locally in the winch challenge stuff? Is there...
low mead's the big thing that's coming now.
So the 3-car thing.
Next weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, next weekend. Yeah.
So it'll be good. Very good. 11th, 12th, 13th.
There's one man that has slid into the comments, and he is saying where we should meet up. It's Western Australia. So
we should do that.
Yeah, who could that? Actually, we've got to somehow put this trip together for maybe a Western Australian trip.
Yeah,
it'd be pretty good, wouldn't it? Really good.
I've not looked into this, but maybe train our cars over.
And
then live the lifestyle on the way over. So forget the driving and fuel, whatever it is. And
I love how he says fuel costs. That made it'd be cheaper for you to private jet over there.
I'll just build another shorty over there.
One of the years we for the series, we went over to Hyden. That was the last Hyden race over there. And Jamie and I heading over in the old Kenworth and going across the big straight going out there. And you need to put cars on trailers to go over there because it's a long trip. And we're over there, and the road is that long and straight. You're sitting in there.
Put your steering lock on.
Yeah, we're in the old, it was a W model pretty much. So loud as shit. Turn the stereo up. Sitting there driving along.
Is this the time the wheel came off?
No, that was another time. But anyway, we're in the back, and so one of us is driving, the other one's I'm in the bunk, and Jamie's driving, and you go on that long, and someone actually puts a Jake brake on, and you nearly get up and run through the sleeping car because there's actually some sort of change. Do
you know what I was just thinking though when you were talking about that? You imagine if you had a King's car transporter or something full of GQ shorties going to WA. It'd be worth more money than Toyota 300s loaded. Anyone that's got a shorty's sitting on a gold mine at the moment. Yours must be worth $1 million now.
That's why we took the shorty to Fink, is because when we finally added up everything that we needed to take.
That was the right length.
That was the only thing that could fit on.
Couldn't put a full size wagon on.
And you can park them sideways.
We put the work Triton on there and put the car trailer won't fit. So what's going to fit? So I'll sure
love it, and it's a good car. So
actually, me shorties are bloody classic nowadays.
Is it on Club Rego?
Club Rego?
No, but it could be.
It definitely could be. Yeah.
Should enter a club.
A what? A cult?
A what?
Is that what you're going to do to own a GQ shorty these days?
What have you been doing?
It is a club.
The Masonic Watch. Stuff it. If you jerks won't do it.
What are you doing?
Terrible.
Yeah. I've seen these new features on it, so I'm just giving it a go. Yeah, but I definitely reckon Western Australia, their sand dunes. I've circled back.
Western Australia, just running over.
Their sand dunes look mint.
They do, definitely do. Yeah, I must admit that'd be something that I reckon all of you guys, I'd love. Imagine running proper Dubai style dunes, that's pretty cool.
Just even just having that the intel over there and possibly places to stay and do the planning out. These guys will do that for us, I'm sure, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
AK-47s.
Yeah,
you said Dubai style.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, it's funny because there is a kennel issue on the way to Fink, and old mates had to sort of bit of that problem out, and
it's a wild story, mate.
I really hope you don't go to jail.
That's a you story, mate. I love it.
So it's really nice to meet you for the first time.
Excellent drinking. Very good. Well, What do you reckon, mate? Is it time to?
No, a little bit longer.
Oh, okay. Well, let's keep telling stories then, because I got plenty of Mason stories. Because the other one that I reckon about Mason that I always loved, I went for a 5-year trip with you and your shorty one time. I don't even know if you remember. This.
Actually, I didn't even finish my story.
Oh,
the
you finished
the rollover. Just hit us with the story.
Oh, it was great. Look, it was a lot of fun. We were up there doing a few skids around the back blocks of it wasn't even Five Rocks, it was more Byfield area. And Russ has always had this great move where you come up to a handbrake turn, load the shorty up, and it'll do a spin on the spot and just go straight back the other way.
It's old school.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're
about
to do that move, and the locker just decides to get out and have a walk out the side. So it did a full big one-legger, and
over we went.
Boss hit my head.
Yeah.
Blood coming out of Billy's head.
And rear passengers.
Not the first.
Yep. So anyway, typical of us, we had to drive it back to town, which we did, and got back. You got back in eventually after we all sobered up, and then drove it to work next day.
I did try to actually.
Yeah, drove to work next day, and Mr. Policeman said,
"Wowzers!" So I knew the story. I didn't know that you tried to drive it to work.
Yeah, it was a good call.
There you go.
Cool. So
you had to get to work.
Yeah. So I kind of got a defect because it was a bit rusty by that stage. That was the old blue and silver cab.
Yes.
So anyway, he decided to spend 12 months and made it nice. Like everything was so good, and like he had all these nice little things hooked to the car, and it was perfect.
Just down your road here.
Yeah, literally.
You get to that one there.
No, we haven't got to that one yet. I'm thinking more. Then we did Australia
I'd say that for round 2.
Then we did Australia Day down at Steve's place, and this is the next time. The next time I got in with Russell, and we're in a corner.
You're banned for my car.
Yeah,
that day.
Yeah. So we're driving along, perfectly capable Russ driving. Big race car driver, and I'm in there.
That sounded condescending, didn't it?
Yeah.
That sounded a little bit. Yeah.
On the stopwatch, don't stand.
But we're heading down a straight, and we're getting into a corner. There's a crowd, which is the thing.
Oh yeah, it is.
And there's a corner. I'm like, there ain't no way we're going around this corner.
Oh, I was confused.
But there were some reels in the grass.
Yeah,
there were some reels in the grass that we didn't see that tripped us a bit.
Anyway,
is that one?
Same story.
Yeah.
Ended up on our side again. So the next time I got in with Russell, we rolled. So the 2 times at that point that I got in with Russell, we rolled both times.
There you go. Can the favor.
Can I be your navvy? And then return the favor.
I promise I won't do anything.
And then one last quick comment is it's just from a listener in. Once again, it's one of our Western Australia fans. He said he just wants to know how you made a radar detector out of a microwave.
Oh, I don't know whether I should talk about this, but some people
after everything you've said,
that's where we draw the line. So on that, good night.
Some people that walked in front of my car may have cancer right now. I don't know, but I didn't get done for speeding for a long time.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, probably on that
bombshell,
we should wrap it up. Russ, it has been awesome having you here, mate. We appreciate it. BG, thank you for lending us.
Always so good.
Get it HQ. We appreciate it a ton.
Sorry about the dog.
No, don't stress, man. It's all part of the.
Welcome.
It won't be back.
Welcome to live podcast.
yeah. But thanks to everyone that's listened in, and we hope you have a good Friday night.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mason.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys, and thanks for all the great people we've met over the past lots of years.